There, I'll break the silence. How's that? Huh? I'm going to call the council to order. Let the roll reflect that all council members are present and a quorum has been established. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a presentation before the council in relation to the Leduc Civil War weekend, and I think Mariah Ring is here. Okay, why don't you come on up, Mariah? Thank you for being here. And Matt Carter will also be addressing us as well. So thank you. Yeah, please come right to the podium and let us know what's going to happen in Leduc this weekend. And as a Civil War buff, I know it's going to be great.
Yeah, yes. It'd be better if you were there to give the Gettysburg Address, though.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Schedule's conflicted.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Does this go higher? Sorry, I don't mean to be picky, but I don't want to bend over too far. So I'm Mariah Ring, the new site supervisor at the Leduc Historic Estate, and we do have Civil War Weekend happening this weekend, the 8th and 9th of September. We have a lot of things planned for it. Many of them are the same as have been going on in the past, so you'll see many of the same groups there, many of the same reenactors. So, for example, Battery I will be there with the cannon and the Gatling gun. We'll also have the 1st Minnesota and the 3rd Minnesota there. And we'll have a couple different things going on. We had a really large sponsorship this year. We got a lot of our event covered by sponsors, which was fantastic. So that means that on Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 2, we can actually have free admission for children and students during that time period with an accompanied adult. So that's a pretty big deal and really exciting that we can allow more families to come in for a reduced rate. We also are doing a family price this year as well. So it'll be $30 for a family 4+. So the more people you have in your family, the less it is to go, which makes it more economical for people who want to come. So we're trying that out. We also have a number of different events going on, like the medical demonstrations. There's going to be a lint making demonstration. Doll making has been really popular in the past, but it was only offered like once a day. And this year we're going to do it throughout the day, so multiple times. So there'll be more children's activities. We're also orchestrating a scavenger hunt too. We'll have the New Pearl Buttons on Sunday, which is a group that's pretty prominent to the Leduc and connected to the Leduc. They'll be playing 2 shows for us. And we'll also have a church ceremony on Saturday as well, which are some of the fun things that are being added. In addition to 4 speakers, I will be included in that. So we'll have 4 different presentations that are going on. On Saturday, we'll have a presentation about women and mechanization in the Civil War. We will also have a presentation about Rutherford B. Hayes' visit to Hastings. This year marks the 140th anniversary of that president's visit to our city, which is pretty exciting. And that actually happened on September 9th. So we will have somebody there who is going to be a Hayes reenactor. Our theme this year is agriculture, so everything will be centered around that. On Sunday, our speakers will be about the color guard and battle flags in the Civil War. That'll be the presentation I'm giving. And then on Sunday afternoon, we'll have someone speaking about ballooning during that time period. So he's going to give a presentation on Thaddeus Lowe and the aeronauts, which should be really interesting as well. And then on Sunday, we'll have Tony Jurgens reading the Gettysburg Address. So,
great.
A brief rundown.
Thank you, Mariah. You know, it's kind of neat that you mentioned about President Hayes coming here. You know, he was the first president to visit Minnesota while president on this trip. So it is significant. He came right here to Hastings.
Yeah, and he gave a talk right here at City Hall, which was pretty exciting, too.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update, and we look forward to everyone. Please go out to the Leduc Mansion this weekend for Civil War days. It's really a fun thing and very educational.
Yes, it should be. Oh, also, I forgot, we're having food trucks this year. That's a really big deal. There will be food trucks Saturday and Sunday. We orchestrated that so you can come, enjoy the Civil War, eat, and then enjoy more Civil War time. So please stay all day.
Another incentive to be there then.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. We have the distinguished executive director of the Dakota County Historical Society here, Matt Carter. Matt's going to give us the annual Leduc report. Matt, welcome to the Hastings City Council meeting. We're very glad to have you here.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the City Council and the City of Hastings for the support that they continue to give the Leduc Estate and the Dakota County Historical Society as we operate the site in partnership. So I just want to kind of highlight some of the things that we've done over the past year, but also mainly focus on looking forward to what we're going to be doing over the next couple of years. So the biggest thing that as you drive by the Leduc Estate, you'll probably notice that there's a lot of fencing up and some machinery that's around on the grounds. So the city of Hastings is currently replacing the roof, so that's probably the most exciting thing going on. So as you go throughout the grounds, you'll be able to still take in the tours and the sites, but then you'll also be able to take a look at, firsthand what a historic and accurate roof would look like on the grounds. And we also want to thank the city and everyone involved with that process for making sure that it's all clear for us during Civil War weekend. They will be moving everything either off the grounds or off to the side so that we can still take advantage of the entire site, since it does get pretty full with reenactors and soldiers. So as we go forward moving with the site, October 21st will be the last day that the site is open to the public for general drop-in tours. After that, it'll be primarily during special events or private events. So October will be our harvest hunting and candlelit tours, and that'll be the last day, that Sunday then, will be the last day that the site's open for general tours until May of 2019. Looking ahead, so we were contacted by the Minnesota Historical Society, and they're looking to deaccession artifacts related to the Leduc Estate. So we're working with them on the artifacts that they're looking to deaccession, and they would be donated to the Dakota County Historical Society, and then we would accession them into our collection and put them on display in the Leduc House. Part of the process will be identifying, Mariah and I will be working to identify those specific artifacts that can be brought back to the house, and then working to get them in the house on display, part of our tour, but then also starting the process of restoring some of those. We've viewed some of the artifacts already. A lot of them are in rough shape. The house dates back to the 1860s. Some of the artifacts could date back that far as well. So 150 years of wear and tear, there's going to need to be some work done to those. So we'll be identifying those artifacts to put in the house, and then also what needs to be done to restore those. We also received a grant that will be used across our organization at the Leduc Estate and the Sibley site, where we will bring in an outside consultant to evaluate our tours. So the tours that the general public goes on as they come in, we really haven't had those change since we entered our partnership with the Minnesota Historical Society, turning over the building in 2005 to the city of Hastings. So we're going to have a consulting company or a consultant come in. They're going to evaluate our tours, and then they're going to have 2 focus groups for each site. So one focus group here in Hastings, one at Sibley and Mendota. That focus group will be made up of the public, people that are interested in being involved in it. They'll go on a tour, they'll sit down afterwards, and they'll tell us what they thought, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they wish they would have seen. Obviously, there's certain things we can't show you on a tour, like the attic or the basement for fire code reasons. But anything else that's out there that people are interested in, that's what we want to hear about. And then they'll take that information, we'll come back, we'll tweak a tour specially around that information that was given to us and give it to that focus group again and get their feedback again and say, okay, we took your ideas, we tried it out, what are your thoughts now? From there, they'll compile information and a report that they'll submit to us that will basically say, this is what the public's looking for in tours at the sites. Here's what they like, what they don't like, and then we'll use that information for a second phase of this project, which will be then rewriting our tours to be more in line with what the public wants to see at historic sites. The third phase of that will be, once we get that information and it's all in place, is making it accessible to the general public. So that'll be digital versions of those tours, and then translating those into multiple languages, which is something we've seen and heard as an organization at all of our sites, is they want to make sure that it's accessible to the public, whether it's through a disability that they can have it, or through another language that they can hear the tour in. And then as we continue with that, For 2019, we'll be looking at utilizing another grant we got that'll highlight children's programming across all 3 of our sites. So we're really going to be looking at doing some more summer camps at Leduc and Sibley, as well as increasing the children's programming opportunities we have during Civil War weekend. So whether it's incorporating games or some other ideas, the grant will help offset those costs. And then as we proceed forward, we'll begin the process here in October to start planning events, and then the budget process as the organization. And then as that's finalized, we'll have a tentative outline of that for our November board meeting, but then it gets approved in January. We meet on the odd months every year. So in January, we'll approve that, and then we'll get all the final paperwork and everything to the city council and probably come in and present on what we're doing looking forward for 2019.
Great, thank you, Matt.
Yes, thank you.
Council, is there any questions or comments for Matt? Okay, seeing none. Councilmember Fulch.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having vision and taking on, this initiative to bring in a consultant and to really look at your operations. I think that is just wonderful. I really do. I'm glad to hear it, that you're moving forward with a strategic plan for the site. So
Yeah, and we're hoping that the strategic plan, along with everything else as it's being done, will be ready by 2019. If not by 2019, it'll be definitely completed within 2019. So
it's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, council, we have before us the minutes of the regular city council meeting, August 20th, 2018, and the workshop on August 16th. If there's any additions or corrections to the minutes of those 2 meetings? Seeing none, they stand approved. We go to consent agenda. Council, what's your wish? Councilmember Vaughn makes a motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Fulch. That motion is now before the body. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next, we'll go to Public Works, Community Development. Under our agenda, we have before us tonight a resolution and a preliminary and final plan of the Wallen 18th edition. John, welcome to the meeting. Introduce that item, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. What we have before you is a preliminary and final plat for Wallen 18th edition, which is shown on the map here. Generally, it's located east of General Sieben Drive, north of Rivershore Drive. The majority of the subdivision that takes place is around this cul-de-sac here called Brandlewood Court. The proposal is for 14 single-family villa homes, which would be constructed along this cul-de-sac here. And I know this has been before you in the past. I'll go through a little bit of the history of the subdivision and where we've been before and where we're at tonight. So the 14 villa home proposal is coming forward, which is a bit different from what we looked at August 6th. You may recall that in July we had a preliminary meeting come forward where the larger subdivision included villa homes all the way down General Sieben Drive and up around the cul-de-sac, which totaled 22. There was some concern from the Planning Commission, from the Planning Committee of Council upon their review, and with the council members themselves with the number of accesses going on to General Sieben Drive. At that point, we went back and revised the subdivision, the developer did. With that, we also held a neighborhood meeting on August 23rd and took a revised plan back to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission did look at this at their last meeting. They did vote 4-1 to recommend approval of it. During the meeting, we did have one resident speak in opposition to the request with concerns about the effect on adjacent homes and deviating from the original plan of the development. A little history of the development here. The subdivision, as you may recall, was originally done with a master development plan in 2002. The area around here called for 9 homes within the cul-de-sac. What's being proposed today is a deviation from that. There would be 14 homes in the cul-de-sac itself. This is what the plat would look like itself. The plat sizes and the lots range from about 6,700 square feet, or 7,700 square feet, excuse me, up to over 19,000 square feet. The subdivision is being proposed as a cluster subdivision, which allows for some deviations on minimum sizes and minimum lot widths, provided that the overall density for the subdivision does not increase. Now, this is a plan here showing what the original subdivision plan was in 2002 here and what is being proposed tonight. The villa home concept itself would be a single-family home project that would be taken care of by an association. The applicants state that it would, house sizes would range from about 13 to 1,700 square feet, with an opportunity to finish the basements, which could increase the size of those homes as well. Their experience has been that in most of these other homes that they have had constructed, the homeowners do opt to develop those basements at the beginning of construction, which would lead to about 2,500 square foot plus homes within the subdivision, and values of $400,000 plus is what we're being quoted by the developer. These are some of the house styles that would be proposed that look something like this. I think these come specifically from the agreement that the Wallens have with Fieldstone Family Homes. Fieldstone Family Homes would be the developer of the homes themselves, buying those lots from Wallen upon approval of the subdivision here. And so this is what some of the home styles look like, and that is the development that we have before you tonight. So I can stand for any questions that you may have. We have two actions related to this tonight that are somewhat related. One is the preliminary and final plat of the subdivision itself. That requires a simple majority of council. We also have a second item on the agenda. Upon approval of this, we would ask for the consideration of a vacation of easement within Wallen's 17th edition. I'll go through that one quick. This easement here was platted in a previous subdivision of Wallen. Because of the new lot configuration, this would not fall on a lot line that would be platted with the 18th edition. So we would look at vacating that drainage utility easement. There's nothing within there at present. And so that would be the other action upon approval of the preliminary and final plat of Wallen 18th edition. We have the development team from the Wallen subdivision with Mr. Todd Rapp, their attorney, as well as representatives from Fieldstone Family Homes available tonight for any questions, and I can stand for any questions as well at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate that very much. I'm going to, normally through this process, we do not have a provision where we take public input, but I know there's many people here who want to have the opportunity to express their opinion on this particular project, and we will allow that this evening to have testimony given. Before we do that, I just want to give the developer an opportunity if they wanted to say anything before we get started. Please feel free to do that now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As John indicated, I'm Todd Rapp. I've appeared before you on numerous occasions in the past. I've represented the Wallen subdivision for years. My comments would be brief. We first brought the concept of a villa home area in the Wallen subdivision to your planning committee, I think last fall, and then again this spring. We have been advised by representatives in the real estate business that villa homes are a very popular home product, particularly in the Hastings context. They provide an opportunity for seniors to stay in the city, and that has been Fieldstone Family Homes, Inc.'s experience in a similar project that they've done in Farmington. I believe they've indicated in the past that out of 20 units that they constructed similarly there, 18 or 19 of them were occupied by residents who were 50 or over. So it is an empty nest type of focus that we believe we have, although we're not turning this into a 55 and older subdivision. Because after all, it's Hastings, and we want to have enough flexibility so that the product does indeed sell. As John indicated, the anticipated square footage on these homes is going to be 13 to 17-ish in the main level. By far, the bulk of these lots that we're proposing are walkout lots. There are a couple of lookouts, and then there are a couple of full basement lots. So Fieldstone's experience elsewhere has been that most homeowners want to invest significantly in producing an attractive home inside and out, and most of the basements or the walkout levels get finished. John characterized these accurately as single-family homes, not townhomes. There will be a homeowner association that is created. The Wallens have always been very careful about wanting control over the appearance and architecture for the subdivision. And so having a homeowner association incorporated and charged with the responsibility of architectural control as well as snow removal and lawn care. Those are the aspects of a actual townhome type of association, but that's all. And these will be detached, they'll have setbacks, they'll be the homes that appear in the photographs that John's included in the packet for the council. As a matter of fact, we have, I speak on behalf of the Wallen Partnership, a list of 15 specific front elevations, some of which were depicted in the screen here this evening, that are pre-approved so that Fieldstone has to build out of that grouping of front elevations unless they come to us and get approval for some other style of home. The predominant roof lines, as elsewhere in the subdivision, are hip roof. We've taken pains to make sure that the front elevations have design characteristics that are attractive and consistent with the neighborhood. As John indicated, we have lots that are upwards of 19,000 square feet here, otherwise as low as 7,700 square feet. Some of that is guided by the fact that we have significant storm water drainage facilities installed with the original grading plan, so that we have to draw the lot lines where the existing pipes are. So that resulted in some lots being larger than other lots rather than them all being of the same type. In addition to the homeowner association type restrictions that we have insisted upon in our written purchase agreement, the other sorts of restrictions that are typically and universally included within the Wallen additions, that prohibiting fencing that isn't of an open wrought iron type and only in instances where there are in-ground swimming pools. Those restrictions will be a part of the covenants for this subdivision, just as they are everywhere else in the Wallen development. No detached structures, and any structures that are outside of the home need to be attached to it and of a similar architectural style. Those are the same covenants, same restrictions that are found elsewhere in the subdivision. What we're simply trying to do is respond to a market that exists for quality homes without large lawn maintenance responsibilities. And I hope that, and we've been led to believe that representatives of the city also believe that that's a significant and an important housing type needed in the city. We hope to be able to provide it. If you have any questions, I can try and answer. This gentleman here, the more distinguished looking gentleman, is Dave May, and he is the sales manager. No, he's with Fieldstone, and he knows everything there is to know about their product, their marketing, and the market that they are building for. And they are very excited to be a part of Hastings, and we hope you'll find your way clear to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rapp. Now I'll open up the podium for anyone else who would like to speak to this particular project, either for or against. So is there anyone who would like to speak? Please. And we probably know who you are, a lot of folks here, but for the record, please give your name and address.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Ian Martin, 1770 Greystone. Good evening, Mayor
Welcome
and
to the
council
meeting.
members.
Welcome.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is just pass out some market data that I compiled on my own here. So for those of you that don't know, I am on the Planning Commission, and I also live in the neighborhood. I was not able to be at the last Planning Commission meeting. Had I been, it would have been a 4-2 vote. I'll just lead off with that and explain why. To me, there's no doubt that the city of Hastings does indeed need this product. My parents themselves are of age to begin looking at downsizing. So what I did is I just wanted to do some market data research myself because everything we were told at the neighborhood meeting was talking about Farmington and Lakeville, places like that. As you guys all know, we are not Farmington, we are not Lakeville. What I've done here is went around all over the city from Featherstone Court out to Sandpiper Circle, South Point Drive in Century South, 36th Street, Riverwood Drive, ending at Woodland. I took a look at sales data as well as sales dates and what these villas currently are assessed at. I examined 22 villas in the city of Hastings with an average sale price of $305,800. The average assessed value, there were 2 that still had not been assessed, 2018 numbers. Average assessed value is $283,500. And the lot sizes ranged from 0.06 acres to 0.39 acres. And square footage ranged from 1,200 to over 3,000 square feet. A couple bullet points at the bottom here, Mayor and council members. 18 of the 22 villas I examined have been built and or sold since 2016. And it's not an exhaustive list of all the villas in Hastings. There are a few more in Featherstone Oaks that I did not research. Given their size, they're much larger than the product described. They're not comparable properties in my opinion. On that note, like I said, I'm not against the product, and I'm sure you guys are well aware there are plenty of vacant lots in the city that are being developed from Nick Konzemius, Todd Seward, as well as Greg Jablonski, that offer this product. They have been offering this product. Just because something's working in Lakeville doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in Hastings. If this does get approved, they still have to sell them. The numbers that I've compiled are right where the market is in Hastings, and I think if $400,000 is a starting point, I think that's a little bit expensive for residents in Hastings, as noted by the research I've done. So, appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else who would like to speak? Please, sir. Welcome to the council meeting. Glad to have you here. Please give us your name and address.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. My name is Curtis Garretts. I live at 1771 Greystone Road. My property will border lot number 6 on the proposed development. Why are we here today? I just want to give you a quick little background as to how this has progressed to where we are. Initially, at the first planning meeting that I participated in, there were some notifications that were sent out. In talking with some of my neighbors, that included 3 homeowners. So there was 100% attendance at the first planning commission meeting here about a month and a half, 2 months ago. At that point, like was mentioned, the villas were turned down due to the 8 driveways that were going on General Sieben. If we fast forward from there, there was a second round of notifications that were sent out. And there was also a little, what I would call like an open house meeting that the Wallens and Windham Hills put on to kind of showcase what was going to be built and to ask any questions and answer any of those questions. I'm going to get a little bit into that just in a brief moment here about that second round of notifications. Ultimately, why we're here today, that was passed. This past Thursday, I was at C's school, a little meet and greet with our teachers, bringing our little ones to school. I happened to come up to one of my neighbors who was not part of the notification area, and I mentioned to him, I said, hey, did you hear about the villas that were going to be going up? It's going to City Council this coming Tuesday. They said, no, I have no idea. And after about a 5-minute discussion, we both were extremely concerned, and we both decided, hey, we need to get some more of our neighbors involved and share what's going on. So just this weekend, we had a meeting, us neighbors. We handed out a couple of flyers to a radius we felt more appropriate. And here we are today. So what I do have, we sent out a petition around the neighborhood. We did it as quickly as we could. It kind of started on Sunday, to be honest. We did get 44 signatures, and I can pass it to you. It's a little bit tattered, but it made its way around here pretty quickly, like I mentioned. The petition reads this: we, the citizens of Hastings, Minnesota, and neighbors of the proposed addition of 14 detached villas to the Wallen 18th edition of Windham Hills, petition to the Hastings City Council to deny the above stated request by Roberta Shodin. I'm going to quick go through the 6 bullet points that we do have on there, and there's many other concerns that we do have, but we wanted to kind of hit the high ones. The first bullet point, the proposed villa homes do not preserve the marketability of the existing homes and vacant lots of Windham Hills. We all strongly feel that the lots surrounding the villas will have a very hard time selling to single-family homes. In fact, myself, had I known this, I more than likely would have not built on our lot. We just moved in this March, so this is something that, this is very new to us. The proposed cluster development that this is being called, by definition, should preserve land for open space, recreation, or agriculture. That is what we were told at the Planning Commission meeting. Essentially what we're doing with this cluster development is we're taking the same footprint. What we should be doing is taking the same footprint, move the homes to a smaller area and open up some green space. Instead of that, we are taking the same footprint and just putting more houses on that same footprint. We feel the quality of the homes will not match the current single-family homes of Windham Hills. They're going to be smaller, not as much architectural features. Will be placed much closer together than the homes are currently in Windham Hills, amongst other things. Going to the point of the second notifications that were sent out, there was a map that was sent to the folks that did receive the notification. And on that notification, there were 46 lots / home sites that were notified. Of those 46 lots, 19 of them had homes on them. 27 lots were vacant or undeveloped, nothing there. We felt that this was this was not a sufficient representation of impacted neighbors in the community. The proposed villas do not match or follow the declarations that we had to sign as Windham Hills home builders, our homeowners who constructed our homes. And I'm going to read a few verbatim that I had brought with me. Actually, I've got a copy of the declaration for Wallen 16. These homes are the homes that we built, so not the villas, to preserve the high value marketability of the lots comprising the property and other neighboring outlets for future constructed residents and previously constructed residences. The building area, the homes that we built, in the case of a single floor, which these are proposed as, or any slab-on-grade structure, not less than 1,400 square feet of finished living space on the main floor. And we heard today there's probably about half of these that are going to be smaller than that. Recognized styles of architecture and are encouraged, provided that harmony with the general landscape and adjacent dwellings is maintained. The ACA retains the absolute right to deny approval to any proposed house plan or alteration due to too great of a similarity or existing proposed structures, non-compatible materials or colors or styles or lack thereof, deemed inconsistent to the area. The ACA may request design modifications in the interest of producing improvements more complementary to or compatible with the community. We had to build 3 car garages or garage equivalencies to 3 car garages at a minimum. These, along with many other areas in this document, like I said, were rules that we all had to follow. In fact, I have my plans that I had to submit back to Greg Shadeen about 3 or 4 different times with alterations that we had to make to our house to uphold the style and the homes and the culture that we wanted in Windham Hills. And the last bullet point here on the petition was a high potential to decrease the values of the existing homes located in Windham Hills, in which we have, all of us here today have invested in. At our meeting, I did ask, myself and Anna Prettyman, we asked some of the community members to join us here today. We didn't ask that they necessarily had to stand up and speak, but we would like them to show up in their support of denying this, just for the simple fact that we wanted to maintain in a neighborhood that had similar homes like ours, and to uphold the neighborhood. So I'd be happy if you had any questions specifically to me. Otherwise, I would like to thank you and everybody else in attendance for your time.
Thank you for your testimony, and the petition will be reflected in the record. It's being received. Welcome to the meeting. Very glad to have you here. Please
Thank
state
you.
your name and address. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Anna Prettyman, Prettyman. Members of the council and Your Honor, I'm here tonight on behalf of many of my neighbors who are also in attendance. We are requesting that the project before you tonight be denied outright. I want to respectfully remind the council that the Planning Commission originally strongly opposed this project, and they were right. Even though they came back and they said, we have revised the plans, we got rid of the 8 driveways that were on General Sieben, it's still not good enough. The majority of the current concerns that the Planning Commission originally raised still ring true today. In particular, there is the lack of open space. The project, as you know, is submitted as a cluster development, which by definition is intended to preserve and enhance the open space and natural amenities. However, the project does not maintain the open space. Instead of 9 single-family homes on one parcel of land, they are proposing 14, as you know. This higher density for the same plot of land cuts away from the goal of preserving open space in the neighborhood. Second, we're very concerned about the increase in traffic issues and the road use that will go on. As the Planning Commission correctly pointed out, even though the applicant can tell you that the homes will be marketed to empty nesters or to seniors, the reality is that they cannot control that. There's going to be people of various ages that are going to be living in these homes, and that is going to increase the traffic use in the neighborhood. I also want to raise other concerns that support the decision to deny the project before you tonight. We are concerned that the proposed homes will not match the quality of the existing homes in our neighborhood. Will they adhere to the same covenants that we had to sign? We're not sure. Mr. Rupp came up before you tonight and told you that he thinks so. They're going to put those plans together in writing, but I haven't seen anything, and I don't know if the council has seen anything either. When we built our home, we had to get specific plans approved. For instance, we were given only a handful of color choices to choose our siding from. We had to have a certain amount of gables on our home. We have this lovely pumpkin orange color as our front door, and I had to get that approved. We were required to have our yard landscaped with true trees in the front within a quick turnaround of closing on our property. I'm highlighting these examples to demonstrate to you that we are invested in our home as well as our neighbors here, and what reassurance is there that our same covenants will be followed by this new project. I'm also very concerned about the domino effect. If you approve this project, what does it mean for the remaining property in the development? That area that is south of Brandlewood Court and River Shore Drive. Who really is going to want to build in those lots? There's quite a discrepancy that they're talking about here. They're presenting homes that are going to be roughly 1,000 to 2,000 square feet finished, and then you have multi-million-dollar homes down on River Shore Drive. What's going to happen between those, with that space in between there? Our fear is that it will not attract buyers at a higher price point and instead lead to more villas. They could come back and ask to do more, or the lots will remain vacant. Finally, I do want to point out the way in which Wyndham Hills went about moving forward on this project is worth commenting on. We were held to a very high standard when we purchased our home. Like many others here tonight, we met with Greg and Roberta and we walked our land together. We were told that single-family homes just like ours would be built, and slowly. They would approve everything that was going to go on. Since that time, however, there seems to be this lack of care and concern for those of us who have chosen to invest here. If you drive down in our neighborhood, you will find a van seat laying on a vacant lot. You will find gravel and debris in the roads, and you will find a fallen over Coldwell Banker sign. That's not the neighborhood that we want to live in and that we chose to invest in. And we do feel like the Wallens have kind of discarded us at this stage. This project seems like a quick way to sell off land to a developer who, A, is not local, they're out of Burnsville, and second, the building is a product that isn't of the same quality as it is here. Look at the notice area that they gave you, and Curtis pointed this out. The notice area is indicative of their intent here. First, they only gave notice to 3 homes. Those 3 homeowners showed up and opposed it. Then upon your request, you told them go back and expand the notice area. They did. Their map, though, the majority of the parcels they own. That's not notice. What notice is getting people together in my kitchen last night and saying this isn't right. What are we going to do about it? Correct notice is getting a petition signed by 44 people within 24 hours and saying this isn't right. This is not why we chose to invest in the city of Hastings, and we need to do something about it. Todd Rupp told you, he gave you the reason of why they're moving forward on this project. He said, I'm simply here. I'm trying to respond to a market that wants lawn and snow maintenance taken care of. That's it. But guess what? We're more than that. We're here because we want to preserve the integrity of our neighborhood. If the city of Hastings is intent on growing its numbers, on maintaining school enrollment, on drawing people to invest here, you need to have a neighborhood that is attractive to those types of people, to working professionals and to growing families. My husband and I lived in St. Paul for a number of years while we both finished graduate school. Once we started to have children, we specifically chose to live in Hastings, a place to raise them. It offered good schools, safe neighborhoods, a tight-knit community. We have made Hastings our home, and we have invested here. My husband is a local business owner just across the street, and I'm a practicing attorney. We have 4 beautiful children that we are raising here, and we have enrolled them all in the local schools. I know that I'm not alone in my sentiment that Hastings is a great place to live. Others tonight are here because they have chosen to invest here as well. Support us as neighbors and deny the project outright. If the council or its members have no further questions, I'll end my comments at this stage. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it very much. Another speaker? Let's see, we have 2 coming to the podium. Why not take this gentleman first, and then we'll take the next gentleman? Welcome to the council meeting. We're very glad to have you here. Please give us your name and address.
Robert Ladd, 1790 Fallbrook Drive. I'm not going to give you a long speech here, but when I hear guys come up and they say, well, we're going to build these here for the senior citizens, that's a bunch of hogwash. I'm 75 years old. If I'm not a senior, nobody is. They're building it to put money in their pocket. And by adding them, you know, we've got one of them villas right now. You go right down General Sieben Drive, and just before you get to where Target used to sit, There's one of them so-called villas in there. People are coming and going. You constantly see for sale signs up. They're there for 1 year, gone the next. I mean, this is getting to be a traverse country. Let's keep the people in here that bought these houses and paid $500,000 plus. Why should their homes be devalued? Just so some developer can come in and skim some more money. That's all I got to say. I'm not in for it. I never got a chance to even see these plans of this stuff come up. Nobody showed them to me until my neighbor come over and said, "Hey, Bob, do you know about the meeting?" I didn't know nothing about it. My name isn't on that signature, but it darn sure would have been if I'd had a chance. We don't need this here. Let's keep building the homes like we're building them now. $500,000 homes, and let people have some pride in them and built decently instead of putting up some cheap junk. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Sir, welcome to the meeting. Glad to have you here.
Hi, Jim Hill, 1605 Fallbrook Court. We built our home under the governance of Declaration of Protective Covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and we're happy to do that. We didn't have a choice, but we wanted to preserve the value of our home in that neighborhood. And we understood that the houses that would continue to be developed would be of the same nature. And so it's very discouraging to see this request coming in through the process it did that appears to have no benefit whatsoever to the residents that are going to be around it and could have some significant adverse impacts to them. I'm not going to go into marketability. I think Kurt and Anna did a very good job of pointing that out relative to a potential adverse impact. But one point Anna made, you heard from Kurt, he never would have built there if he'd known that development was going to occur. Anecdotally, another builder told me that that he will have trouble selling lots there. So there's this initial change, and there's more development around it. So why are people going to want to have the higher priced homes surrounding that? I can't understand it. I don't know of any way somebody would want that. So that would imply to me, at least, it continue to be the more villa style home. The process by which this got to council, maybe I missed something, but I'm in the middle of that picture. I was never notified. And so I don't know what the Planning Commission required for notification or whether it was at the discretion of the developer, but certainly it was a huge surprise to many people that were in near proximity to this development. And so I'd just like the council to consider all this very carefully before they would approve this. I never had a chance to really consider the benefits of it because they were never brought to me. This is my first opportunity to really have a discussion, to talk, until I heard about it last night. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay. I appreciate the, okay. Let's see, we have two. I think she stood up first, so welcome to the meeting. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Jill Gens, 1671 Fallbrook. I'm a neighbor of many of the folks here. I live a couple houses down from Anna, and I don't have a prepared speech, but I just want to echo what she had to say in that we moved from Rogers, originally from Hastings, but coming back home, and we knew and know to this day that Hastings is a wonderful town to live in, which is the reason that we returned back from Rogers. And much like the rest of the folks here, we went through the long, arduous planning process of making sure, as Anna said, that we had the proper roof style, the right pitches, hips and gables, LP siding. And so we jumped through those hoops over the process, or for the period of time of a year, and made sure that we're meeting certain covenants. And so to later find out that these villas are in the planning after we were promised that these would be single family homes in this neighborhood is definitely disappointing. So I want to resonate what Anna said in that, and the rest of the folks, that we are very opposed to this and hope that you'll consider our plea today. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. And then the next individual. Welcome to the meeting. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm Jim Boogren. I live at 1626 River Shore Drive. And we built our house about 3-4 years ago. When we built our house, we went through hell to get it crossed. I have 50 grand tied up into a roof on my house just to fit their needs for their development. Now they're gonna put stuff in that cost 3 times, 4 times what my roof cost. What does that do to the value of my house? So you should be able to see just by the way they're trying to backdoor everything in and go around all the citizens of the community. They're trying to slam this down our throats before we even knew what was going on. You really want builders in here that come to you that way, that go around the city instead of straight at them? We've got a lot of people in this area that invest a lot of time and money to make Hastings what it is, and now all of a sudden, we're just gonna put this in, all our houses are gonna drop, and is the community ready to eat some of that? I mean, I'd gladly let them move in. Send me a check for a couple $100,000, what my house is gonna go down, and bring them in. I mean, this is ridiculous. There's no way they should be anywhere near where our houses are with the development they're doing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else who wish to speak? Okay.
Your Honor, we have a number of neighbors that would like to come up, say their name, their address, and that they oppose. Is that appropriate at this time to do? So we have that put on the record who is opposing this property.
Are most of those names on the petition?
No. Some of them are and some of them are not. But I do want the record to reflect who showed up here tonight and is opposing the project. Will the court, or I'm sorry, will the council allow for that?
We'll allow it.
Thank you. If we could just have you come up one by one, say your name, your address, and that you oppose the project.
I'm Cassandra Garretts. I live at 1771 Greystone Road, and I'm opposed to this.
I'm Terry Youngren. I live at 1580 Northridge Drive, and I am opposed to this.
Sue Neen, 1664 Fallbrook Drive, and I oppose.
Pat Moore, 1641 Greystone Road, and I oppose.
Tom Daly, 2447 Timberview Drive. And I oppose. It does seem kind of like a bait and switch going on here, though. I just found out about a couple days ago. I know 15 neighbors, 15 more people that'd be here today if they know about it. I know they don't know about it, so it's just never knew about it. Thank you.
Jeff Hubbard, 1592 Northridge Drive. We oppose it.
Paul Fletcher, 1759 Fallbrook, and I oppose it.
Craig Santelman, 1750 Fallbrook Drive. I oppose.
Chris Brown, 2535 Timberview Drive. I oppose.
Andrew Gantz, 1671 Fallbrook Drive, and I oppose.
Or Peterson, 1656 Fallbrook Drive, and I oppose.
Richard Peterson, 1656 Fallbrook Drive, and I am opposed to this project.
John Thermos, 1637 Greystone Road, and I oppose this project.
My name is Paul Hiller. I live at 2467 River Shore Court, and I oppose this. But I'd like to add that I've built houses all across the metro in developments just like Wyndham Hills. That will never happen in developments like that anywhere else. They don't allow it. Thanks.
Ryan Vetters, 1628 Greystone Road, and I oppose.
Leon Endress, 1505 River Shore Drive. I oppose. And I also recommend that if this is passed tonight, that everybody in the development challenge or tax assessment next spring when they have the opportunity.
Kevin Green, 1782 Fallbrook Drive. I am opposed, and I also would like to let you know that we are prepared to move forward legally with the city and the developer should you approve this. Thank you.
I'm John Hoffman. I live at 2515 Brook Place, and I would like to add, if this is passed tonight, that everybody in the development challenge or tax assessment next spring when they have the opportunity. Kevin Green, 1782 Fallbrook Drive. I am opposed, and I also would like to let you know that we are prepared to move forward legally with the city and the developer should you approve this. Thank you. I'm John Hoffman. I live at 2515 Brook Place, and I would like to add, It was 18 years ago that I moved in, and all of the promises and all of the requirements that these people that live closer to the actual project than I do were required back then too. The architectural lines, the front of the house, no siding in the front, stucco, stone, brick, gables, peaked roofs, more pitch, I had to pay extra. All of that has been in place for now at least 18 years. And for a change to occur after all of that time, I feel bad for all these people. It's not right. I'm opposed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here at the meeting. Appreciate your attendance. It's greatly appreciated. And we thank the developers for being here as well. So, Council, now we'll take the discussion among here, the Diaz, and talk about the project that is before us. Councilmember Liefeld.
Thank you, Your Honor, and everyone for attending. When I originally heard from Cassie and Curtis, the question was, how many of your neighbors know about this? You know, that was really the question, and it's great to see by these addresses. Neighborhood isn't just, it's a farm, it's like a farmer's neighbor. You know, you're all within a mile from each other, and this project is huge and means a lot to you. So I've been thinking about it for quite a while, and one, I'm going to oppose it, but do want to say at 50, villas sound fantastic. Not in your neighborhood. I don't agree with that at all. There's some beautiful locations in Hastings where I think they fit in, and if I were in my 30s again and having my children and building a house, and I built the houses that you guys built, I would be very concerned about what's happening. I believe you moved into this neighborhood and built these houses for an absolute reason, to be with people possibly your own age, starting families, going to school together. Your kids will grow up together like we all did when we were kids in our neighborhoods over on Forest, okay? I did have a couple questions, and I don't know if these are rhetorical or not, but seeing some of these that Ian put together, some of this data about sales price and sales date, assessed values and such, I did have a question that just, we're talking a lot about what the homes are worth and how much they're going to cost to build. How much are the lots? If you are selling 9 lots at a $10, you make $90, right? If you're selling 14 lots at $10, you're going to make $140. So I'm a little curious about that. I do want to understand. I'm hearing the concern, and I'm feeling some of it myself on my end, wondering if this is really just all about the money, and that's the way I'm seeing it, and that concerns me in a development. If Mr. Rep, if you'd like to speak to that, that would be great.
Yeah, I have drafted the purchase agreement for Fieldstone Family Homes, and I believe that the average purchase price per lot is $75,000. And the notion that this developer, who's been a part of your community for over 20 years, is a sellout and is just trying to make a profit and move on is patently ridiculous. Those lots in this cul-de-sac would probably sell for the range of $90,000 to $100,000 in the original configuration. The election to go with the villa concept has nothing at all to do with the developer lining its pockets. That is apocryphal and it's false. What we are trying to do is respond to what is a perceived need in Hastings. We're trying to produce a product for your seniors, for your empty nesters, and as you say yourself, Council Member Liefeld, sounds good to you. And there's a lot of people in your community that it sounds good to. I reject the notion that it's good, but someplace else. That smacks of, sort of snobbishness, that you can't have senior citizens, empty nesters, the older community members in your neighborhood because their houses aren't as big as yours.
I will object to that, however. I do see a number of older citizens sitting in this room today who
Well,
own,
I
one
saw
moment,
mostly
who own-
younger
one
people,
moment, who own these
and-
homes.
and
And I
the-
would just like to state that I'm not suggesting that someone's trying to line their pockets and move on.
Well, it's been suggested here tonight on several of occasions, and
For the record,
wanna
I
say-
didn't suggest that.
Okay.
But I do want to just make sure that everyone is doing what's best for the community immediately within the neighborhood, as well as the larger community.
And if you will recall, council member, some of the council members will, that there are a host of twin homes that were developed by the Wallens on the north end of this project. And they butt up against single-family homes. And, you know, people didn't have a problem buying single-family homes adjacent to the multifamily structures. These were attached townhomes back then, and we're not proposing attached structures. We're not proposing slab on grade. You know, our lot sizes are reduced because we're anticipating a market where people don't really want to maintain lawns by themselves. But our house sizes are not dramatically reduced. We expect that by and large, they will meet the 1,400 square foot minimums that these people have under their current declaration of covenants elsewhere. These are not going to be a dramatically different product, both in terms of their price range, their value, their appearance. It's basically smaller lots so people can lead a lifestyle away from their lot. Thank you very much for the opportunity to respond.
You know, we're not going to have a back and forth tonight. This is before the council. I gave plenty of opportunity for people to testify. And sooner or later, we have to have the opportunity up here to discuss these issues and ask questions of the developer. Just for those who are raising their hand, I just want you to know that, okay? We did have an opportunity for testimony, and I think what we're going to do at this point is keep it here so we can have the discussion, so we can continue to move forward on what we're going to do to resolve this issue, okay? So I just wanted to let you know that. I know I recognize your hands are up back there, some of you, but we're not going to, every time somebody comes up and makes a point, then we're going to see hands all up. At one point, we have on council need to consider this issue, and we're going to do that now. Councilmember Fulch?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a question for the developer. Just in the last week or so, I started to actually, door knock around this neighborhood so that I could get a feel for it, knowing that this was coming up, to understand, how the neighborhood feels. And so I was just literally a week ago on the backside of this cul-de-sac around lots 4, 5, 6, 7, and those houses were really exceptional. I mean, everything was pristine. The yards looked like golf courses, and the homes, the material were really beautiful. And so what kind of assurances would you bring forward to make sure that this cul-de-sac, these homes would meet the exact same standards of the $500,000 houses that surround this area?
Thank you, Councilmember Fulch. First of all, our purchase agreement with Fieldstone Family Homes obliges Fieldstone to prepare detailed covenants which make sure that lawn care and snow removal is conducted, in an orderly, responsible, professional manner. In addition, this Wallen partnership has always enforced other covenants, architectural controls, the limitation of unattached structures, fences which break up the visible and visual amenities that all of the green spaces we've created have provided. All of those covenants will be a part of this project as well, and it's written into our purchase agreement accordingly. And as I indicated earlier, and as John has John Hinsman has circulated, I believe, to council on prior occasions, we took the extraordinary step with this builder to work through 15 different front elevations, employing the kind of roof lines and architectural standards that are consistent with the neighborhood and that will fit on a villa-sized lot. And as I indicated before, that builder cannot deviate from those 15 without, circling back with the developer and getting individual approval for any other sorts of roof lines and front elevations. So we've taken more steps at the front end with this builder than we have typically done in the past. But all of the declaration protections that are in the various Wallen declarations and green space associations throughout the project, those architectural and use restrictions will be applicable and incorporated into our declaration on this Brandlewood Court project as well.
Councilmember Fulch.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I have True Green for my lawn care, and it sure as heck doesn't look like the homes that are in this community. And so I would offer, because the residents clearly are very upset and they would really like the opportunity to have a chance to review at a much more meticulous level the 15 front lines. I'm sorry, new verbiage to me. You said that they were called 15
front elevations.
Elevations.
Yep.
I'm assuming that means like home styles or something to that effect, right? Like particular models of homes, as a for instance.
Roof lines.
Roof lines.
And the front features of the home. For instance, Fieldstone submitted some front elevation plans to us that had one side light on the front door. Well, my people didn't like one side light on the door. So either they have to have two or none. I mean, we agonized over the predominant roof lines, the design. We wanted to potentially have some 2 stories as well as Rambler type dwellings. They're not secrets. I've circulated them to council. Mr. Hinsman, you have copies of all of them, don't you? Yeah. And a streetscape as well that puts them all together. If residents want to see them, they're welcome to see them. But on that score, we didn't hide the ball here either. This is a list of 26 people I sent notice of a community meeting to. What I understand happens as a matter of course in this city is that if you have an application, you require under ordinance to send out a notice to people within a 350-foot radius. And that's not our responsibility, that's planning. Planning did that here. And then when this matter came to your attention, I think on the 7th of August, you said, you really should send that out to a broader radius. So you sent it out to a 550-foot radius. So that notice went out from the planning department, and then I took that very same list when I sent out my notice of a community meeting. And so these people received, if they live within a 550-foot radius, they received notice of our public meeting that we held in the room right above us on the 28th of August? Yeah, I think it was 27th of August. We had 2 owners show up and one, well, actually 3 planning commission members, one of them being an owner. And I listened to the people line up here to speak their piece and say they oppose this project. But a lot of them were on this list and they didn't take the time to come to the meeting and learn what we had to share with them about the project when we held that meeting. And we had pictures, we had those front elevations at that meeting. So a number of people who are just opposed to the project missed the opportunity to inform themselves about the project because they didn't come to that meeting. Now, I didn't notice people beyond 550-foot radius because that's not what the council directed us to do. So, I mean, there are some people who were here and didn't get the notice, but then I ask people who are that far away, dealing with a cul-de-sac, which is going to be sort of a community of its own, what are the impacts to those people? I'm hearing just a lot of opposition and not a lot of justification for that opposition based on any reliable and documentable facts. People are concerned about their home values. I'm sure everybody is. But the fact that we have $400,000 or $450,000 or $475,000 villa homes here, I mean, compared to somebody on River Shore Drive who's got $1 million home, they're not going to be comps. They're not going to drag the value down. It's just going to be an integrated community, which I think is a community benefit. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Vaughn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Todd, I got a quick question for you. The outlot A that's next to this, we don't have that platted yet. What would your plans be for that? Would you consider that being single-family homes, so you somewhat have to be responsible to future sales of a single-family home?
Well, I'm thinking that Outlaw A, I don't have the,
South and east.
but it's also east. Yeah, there it is. We have preliminary plat of all of that. The ones that, the portion of it that is adjacent with General Sieben Drive is preliminary platted for 4 lots. And we initially proposed that to be 8 additional villa homes. And that caused a firestorm of concern with your planning commission, and we got a 6-0 or 7-0 vote against. We took it out because your public works director, your planning director, and clearly your planning commission were opposed to having more driveways on General Sieben Drive. So in responding to that, we took it out. And it'll revert to the preliminary plat approval we have for 4 lots. The rest of it is basically along Woodcliff Trail, I believe. Similarly, those have been preliminarily platted as single-family lots, and at some point in time, it's likely that they will be proposed as single-family lots. As you well know, Councilmember Vaughn, we had come to your planning committee originally with the notion of perhaps shrinking the size of those lots along Fallbrook. Was it Fallbrook? No, Woodcliff Drive as well. And we haven't advanced that notion yet. Some of those lots are 120 feet wide, 100 feet wide. They don't need to be 100 feet wide, but you know that's an issue for another day. I have absolutely no understanding as I stand here today that those would be proposed as any additional villa lots. You know, the lots that were preliminary platted against General Sieben Drive, they have always been and will always be troublesome because they're not in the desirable location in this project. They're gonna be fronting and taking their access off of General Sieben Drive. That's gonna diminish their value. So it's gonna diminish probably the amount of money people are gonna ultimately invest in those homes. But they're gonna be single-family homes unless at some point in the future you guys would approve something different. Thank you for asking.
Councilmember.
Quick follow-up, thank you. If we started this discussion, I think you said with our planning committee over a year ago, if not more, and that was when we originally said that's a lot coming on to General Sieben.
Right.
How many homes have you built or started to build since then? Because I think you represent the Wallen family, but what I hear here today is they were told by whoever the representation was that we're building single-family homes and here's what we're building. How many, because I heard when I watched the planning commission saying, I would have never built here if I would have known that was going on. But we started this discussion as planning committee over a year ago, of potential villas.
Right, and I misspoke at the initial planning commission meeting, because Mr. Garrett's, who was one of the later purchases along Fallbrook Drive, or Greystone, yeah. He made his election to purchase, and the question was, well, had we formed this intent to do villas at the time that they purchased, because they were told we expect it to be single family at the time. And I stood corrected by one of my general partner clients. We did not have a meeting at which the notion of doing villas was first discussed and presented to us until about the 25th of June of last year. And I think it was probably about this time last year that we had our first meeting with the planning committee, maybe a little later. So with all understanding of Mr. Garrett's concerns, nobody lied to him at the time. We have explored this seriously since June 25th, because it was recommended to us that there is a market need in the city of Hastings for villa homes, for people who want to get out of their larger houses but stay in the community, stay amongst their families. And we went, wow, that sounds like a great idea. And we're not trying to line our pockets with more money, because we're not selling these lots for more money, but we are trying to meet a market need. And despite what all these people say tonight about the Wallen partnership and the Wallen development, we have a history of trying to be good, solid, civic-minded developers in this town, and I think we've done an excellent job of doing that, and we haven't changed our perspective on that in the slightest.
Council? Councilmember Brox?
Thank you, everyone, for your testimony. Thank you for being here tonight. It's very helpful to get feedback. I have reached out to a member of your community and asked for feedback specifically when I knew this was on the agenda, so that's probably the reason why a lot of you are here. And so I just want you to know that we do care about what you think, and that's why we have the notice provisions, and also why I reached out to one of your neighbors and asked them if they knew about the proposal. But I guess my question is I'm hearing a lot of concern for the future, which has been addressed a little bit. Also, just the concern about the property size. But what I'm wondering is more a legal question. Maybe this is for our council. Dan, what kind of findings of fact or legal grounding do we have to deny a plat that meets all of our requirements and our ordinances?
Thank you, council member. Generally, if the council is going to decline, or if it can't produce a vote to approve the application, there has to be articulated reasons that are supported by fact. That can't be an arbitrary decision. So if the council is going to make, or a council member is going to make a motion to deny, there should be specific reasons for the denial, and those should be referring to, some factual basis for doing that. Decreasing property values in a general state probably isn't sufficient in itself, or a belief that that will happen. So I think it would be a difficult, or you would have to be very specific on the basis for denial, and we would have to articulate that. It would have to come out to the developer as a written document giving them the reasons for denial, and that would have to be summarized. So specific factual reasons why the denial is happening.
And I guess that's a little bit of what I'm struggling with, is just that I hear the concern, and I just don't know what findings of fact we could rely on in order to deny the plat. And I'm open to, if another council members have suggestions or are going to include that in their motion, but I just don't know what those would be at this point.
Okay, further discussion? Councilmember Lund.
Thank you, Your Honor. It was mentioned a little bit of a air of snobbery, and I can see where that may be perceived, not in my backyard kind of mentality. I don't see it like that. I see this as the city of Hastings needing a diversity of home types in this town. If we're looking to continue to grow and become a city with a variety of people of different ages, different income levels, and all sorts, certainly there aren't a ton of open plots of dirt in this town that would hold $1 million home, for example, or several $100,000 for that matter. This is one of them. And by reducing that opportunity in that area, you have removed the opportunity then to have that home type, and possibly a slippery slope effect that was mentioned, I believe, the domino effect, could occur as well by surrounding and adjacent properties. This is not a bad type of home. I don't think anybody here would be against having more of these opportunities for people to live in this type of home. And I don't think it's necessarily not in my backyard. I think it's, for me, it's again, the mix. And where else would you put the homes that would have originally been designed and approved to be in that lot elsewhere? There's not a lot. There's not a lot of that area. So for me, it's consistency on what was originally designed, what was promised to these people that have invested into the community, that do pay taxes, and more so than me. So thank you. But you know that, but you know, that's where I'm coming from. So to suggest that snobbery, I get that, you know, but I don't think that's really what's going on here. These homes are good homes for the town, but not the right property for them, in my opinion. And so that's my stance, and that's why I oppose this.
Okay, and let's see if there's somebody else who hasn't spoken yet. Councilmember Balsanic.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I want to thank all of the people who took the time to come to the meeting tonight. In all the years I've been on the council, over 10 now, I don't think I've ever, I know I've never seen this many people show up for one issue. So it does speak for itself by having this many people in attendance and willing to take the time to stand up and speak. So again, I really do thank you for that. I have a number of things here, some of them sort of overlap. To start out, I am concerned about a precedent that that would be set if we were to approve this. We have all kinds of vacant land on the west side of Sieben Drive, and when precedents are set, it's a little easier to continue going in the direction that that was originally, you know, intended. So I've got some concerns about that in terms of the precedent. We've got so much vacant land around. What's the future hold for that? Now, I had asked at one of our meetings, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have no designation for the west side of Sieben. There is no, there's nothing that it's zoned for. It's pretty much all up in the air.
Council member, the land west of General Sieben Drive is not officially within the city limits. However, within our comprehensive plan, we've guided that area for low-density residential development, which is the similar type of designation that we have east of General Sieben Drive.
Thank you. And even though it is not within the city limits, there's a very good likelihood that someday it will be part of this city. And so I am, looking to the future on that. Bob, where's Bob? You said he was 75? Yeah, I'm 72. So, it may not be around to see that happen, but I do want to protect the interests of my children and my grandchildren who live here in the community of Hastings. Incidentally, I do have my daughter and son-in-law and their family living in a very close proximity to where this development could occur. Moving along, the transient nature, which I believe Bob had brought up, is of concern to me. And I don't know what the statistics are in terms of villa homes, how transient they are. Townhomes, I know you've got some kind of coming and going. I have a daughter in Cottage Grove, lives in a townhome community, which is very nice, seems very stable. You don't see a lot of for sale signs going up. I know if you look at a typical neighborhood, I think they say that in about a 10-year period, you're always going to have about 3 that go up for sale within a certain immediate radius. And I don't know if that's true for the neighborhood that all of you are living in right now, but it's just my feeling that there is a sense of transient homeowners who would be living in these villas. I don't know. I know you're talking about, Mr. Rupp was talking about the empty nesters, the millennials, so forth. The empty nesters, maybe like me, we're not going to be around that long. Hopefully I will be. A couple of my doctors are kind of estimating age 85, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. But I see the sun kind of setting there. Is that considered transient if I were going to buy that villa home and stay there for the next 13, 14 years? I'm not sure. I don't want to lose this guy here. So it's a concern I have, even though it is rather nebulous as to what we mean by transient. Townhomes, villa homes, we certainly aren't talking apartment complexes or anything like that. Now, moving along, there was some mention about covenants, and I've had experience, direct experience with covenants. When I used to live in Rosemount, we had covenants in the development where we were living, but they really didn't have any teeth because there was no financial factor involved with the covenants. On Windham Hill Drive, I know there are covenants where my daughter and son-in-law live, but if somebody decides they want to put up a fence that is, in opposition to what the covenants allow for, you've got to go around, start passing the hat to get some money to get any kind of leverage to get the person to do what needs to be done. Now, I understand that there would be covenants in these villas. There would be covenants, but I haven't heard anything about dues that would be paid towards those covenants to protect those covenants, so that if somebody didn't do what the covenants required, there would be some financial teeth to put that house in order. I'm a big believer in covenants if there's financial backing to the covenants. Otherwise, I don't see that the covenants are worth the paper they're written on because they don't have any financial backing. There's no legal recourse. Well, there is legal recourse, but you know what that means. You've got to have the money in order to do that. So I'm not seeing that in the villa concept here with that. And I don't assume that that's going to be part of it because I've yet to see anything like that with covenants when they come along. I was a designer in my career. I owned a construction company. Wasn't very big, but we did okay. And with an eye to design, I have concerns about what I'm seeing with the villa homes. I'm seeing a lot of garage doors. And I see a front door, and that's about all I see. And so I've got a concern about that. Well, here's one that I've got a couple of windows and the front door. Now I'm looking at the streetscape, and I would say 50%, I'm seeing 5 homes here on the streetscape, and of those 5 homes, I would say 50% of the frontage of those homes is garage doors. An example of villa homes that I don't much care for is over in Rosemount. If you're driving down County Road 42, and just before you get into town, you've got that curve on 42 that takes you around and over the tracks to the stoplight on 42. To the west of 42 and around that curve, you've got villa homes. And when I look at those as I'm driving by, 50% of what I see are garage doors, which aesthetically, from a design standpoint, which was my career, I don't care for. I don't care for. Now, there are ways you can break that up. And I know a lot of you out there have got 2-car, 3-car garage doors in front of your homes, but that is broken up by the remainder of the home. With a villa home, you're really limited in terms of what you can do to break up the aesthetics, the design standpoint of what you can do to make those parcels attractive. So this is of concern to me as well. And so, you know, with that, you end up with kind of a cramped look on that. There's one more point I'd like to make, and that's that, and this came up in some of the discussions that we had with the committee, with the commission, and so forth. These days, which you know, and I go all the way back, I'm probably really showing my age here when I say Orrin Thompson homes, you know, up in Cottage Grove. They could build them sturdy and so forth, but they could, by gosh, build a lot of them because they had a contractor that could come in and be guaranteed that he's going to build X number of homes, as opposed to a contractor, who would come in and say, well, you're just going to build this one. Is that, from a contractor standpoint, a moneymaker for them? Not necessarily. At some point, it was mentioned that this is a contractor-driven development, that in order to get the contractor in, the contractor was saying, I need to have this many homes in order to build. Okay, I can understand that, But the bottom line is, and to conclude here, I think what we're trying to do is put a square peg in a round hole. That's what I see right here. I think this development would look good in an appropriate place, but to have all of these single-family homes surrounding it, and for the future, on the west side of Sieben Drive, being called for single-family homes, this is going to really stick out. And we're trying to drive a round peg into a square hole. I commend the developer for coming in with this type of a plan. I think it is a plan that would be good somewhere else. I look around at the townhomes that we have and the villa homes that we have in Hastings, and they seem to be rather appropriate, but I don't see them as being appropriate in this particular location. Now, I said I was going to conclude, but being a college teacher, I got one more item. I am concerned about the legalities that Councilmember Brock's brought up. If we are to vote against this project, we have to have some very specific items that we can put forth that we can use to say this is not appropriate. And I don't know if we've heard any or not. I don't know that. And to that extent, I feel like I'm over a barrel with regard to all of the wonderful people that have come here tonight to say, I'm opposed to this, but, you know, assessed values are nebulous. They're going to go up and down with the market, with the recession. You know, there's going to be another one coming. We know it's going to happen eventually. You know, the zoning is compatible. Is the villa concept compatible for what we have for that property? Am I asking the question correctly?
I guess I'm not sure of the question, Councilmember.
I'm not sure how to ask it. We have this land. It was zoned for single family, correct?
Correct.
All right. So what we're asking for is to change that zoning to single family, but we're changing the nature of the lot sizes. We're changing the nature of the square footage and so forth. That seems to me to be probably the thing that we could most hold on to if we were in opposition to this project. Legally, Mr. Flegel, I'm not sure if that constitutes that. I'm not sure if you're willing to say what we can and can't do in order for this to not pass.
Councilmember, I'll just make clear, you know, there is not a change in zoning here, so I want the proper language to be used. It's a platting. It's a platting of the area that had been platted in the past, or preliminarily considered in the past, and now it's coming forward for final plattings with smaller lot sizes. So there is not a change in zoning, and I think that's important. Right. It's a design change that is different from what was originally proposed back in 2002.
So the zoning is the same. We've changed the lot sizes.
That's correct.
Correct. What's coming forward tonight is under the same zoning district. There is no rezoning of the property, as Mr. Flegel had pointed out. What it's coming forward tonight is as a cluster subdivision. Under the cluster subdivision rules, it allows for some deviations within the lot sizes themselves, provided that the overall density of the development is not increasing.
And with that, I'll yield to any other council members. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Fulch?
Thank you, Your Honor. I was just thinking to myself here, I think I counted 20 individuals who came and stood up and provided their names at a minimum. And if we just estimate that those houses are $500,000, you know, some more and some less, that's $10 million worth of property owners here. And I think that we have to listen to their voice. And what I heard a lot of folks say is that you don't feel that you had enough notice and that you don't feel comfortable because you're not fully aware of what is being proposed. And I wonder if it hurts to table this for a couple of weeks to allow the neighborhood property owners to have the opportunity to actually attend an open house and really understand what it is that's being proposed for these homes, the quality of the homes and the standards of maintenance, for them to feel more at ease. Because if they bought these properties under the understanding that the developer was going to maintain these standards for all of the homes that were being built within the development, I think we owe it to them to at least have a chance to fully understand that. And perhaps they have suggestions that they could provide to the developer that would make them feel, and there could be some kind of compromise. I hate to be judge and jury up here on a project, you know, without allowing both sides to have the opportunity to have a discussion a little bit further about it. Thank you.
Councilmember Vaughn?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I think I go back to what Councilmember Box is talking about, though. We don't have any facts yet, and even our legal counsel is saying, what are the facts that we're going to... I think I found where we made a mistake. This is saying, and back on this planning commission, revised preliminary and final plat on August 28th. If I go down to our code, it says on here, a subdivision ordinance, applications for preliminary and final plat approval may be submitted concurrently. Or in this case, that which they were, or it really should have a preliminary and then a final, but our ordinance allows it to come together as one, if I read this right. I don't think we didn't do enough on our part to get the word out farther than we needed to, and we should probably make this knowing that there's some education to be done. I still think there's a lot of facts to find, because I have yet to see, I want some potential buyers that have contacted me saying this is a good thing, give them a chance to come and say their piece about this, but also give us some facts on, does it really devalue a property? Nobody can give us that fact that says your property will devalue if this happens. I haven't seen that yet. I think we're doing our due diligence to say we should, and Mr. Flegel would have to help me on this one, is can we approve the preliminary, but the final plat is not approved yet? That comes back in 2 weeks to give a chance for this developer, and I would ask that the Wallen family make sure that they come to that open house and let them come talk to the people that they sold these properties to and potential property owners. I think it's good to see what they are. The 15 face plates of what they're showing are good. I like kind of what they've shown the renderings. But let's look at the footprint of what's inside that property. We never know. We might find someone that's living out here saying, that's actually not bad. I might well go live in that. That's why I think we just got to be still open-minded a little bit. We are getting a question as council members that this is a need in this community. We are looking for this type of property. And I live between this one and Carlton, and we're hearing from realtors, Carltons don't even go on the selling block. They're sold that fast. That tells me our community is aging, and we need to find some spots for them. We have a developer that's showing an interest in that, but it might not be the right place. Again, we need to do a little bit more homework, and I think there's enough there to say we could approve the preliminary, but we need to get to the final and delay that for 2 weeks, minimum.
Staff, do you have a comment about preliminary versus final, just so we have all be on the same page?
Thank you, Your Honor. An approval of the preliminary plat would generally approve what is before you now, but you would put some conditions on there that have to be met before they can get final plat approval. I would probably caution against taking any action on the preliminary plat if you're not satisfied with the design or think that you are going to want to deny the project as a whole in its current design form. I do agree if the council needs more information, it could table the issue. Obviously, we may be at a point that you're not going to get neighbors and developer to agree to anything different, and you may just be deferring a hard vote. I mean, that's a possibility, but I think if you do really need some more information, want to do your own research, that could be done. John would need to comment on our timing requirements under the 60-day rule to see if we have time to do that and come back. We could probably get an extension of that period of time possibly, but there could be a timing issue that we'd have to be considered. But I may caution against doing a preliminary plat approval because I don't know that that gets you where you want to be.
Councilmember Liefeld?
I have a couple of questions here. One, when someone is saying that we need this type of housing in our community, I'm concerned that a $400,000 villa isn't viable housing. It's not affordable housing. It's a villa. I think it's marketed to a pretty specific individual. When I made the comment that I'd love to live in a villa, I'd love to live in a $400,000 villa, but it's never going to happen. I'm concerned that we don't have enough data, as Councilmember Fulch and Councilmember Vaughn are stating, in regards to what's the data you guys are being told? What are they being told in regards to we need this? We know we need a lot of stuff in town. We need affordable housing. This isn't going to handle that. You know, we know we need a lot of different things. But my question for Mr. Fliegel would be, when we talk a specific basis for denial, the villas not meeting the existing declaration or covenants, does that not qualify?
Thank you, Council Member. I would say that the covenants generally that have been established in the different subdivisions in Wallen, they apply to the lots that they're recorded against. I don't believe there would be assurances in those covenants that the newly developed lots also have to conform to the same covenant requirements. I don't know that for sure. I'm somewhat speculating. So covenants are applicable to the lots they are recorded against. As to this concept of an understanding between developer and purchasers in the lots, you know, we've heard a lot about that tonight, that there was some assurances. Could that be a basis? Perhaps. But again, you're basing that on testimony here tonight, and I would say as to the covenants, adjacent subdivisions oftentimes have covenants that are drastically different from each other. So I think it can happen, and there's not a requirement for that consistency.
Councilmember Lund?
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize for putting somebody on the spot, but I thought that Mr. Garrett had mentioned something in his documentation that regarded future properties. So if that's acceptable.
Thank you, Council Member. Again, without looking at the specific documents, I couldn't say. Covenants oftentimes say that the developer, the declarant, has ability to bring additional land into the development and be subject to those conditions. I can't say if that happened in this case or if there was reference to additional property in these covenants.
Okay. Councilmember Balsanic?
Thank you, Your Honor. If this were to be tabled, it would give an opportunity for the developer and the homeowners to perhaps look at some alternatives to what's going on. And then, as I mentioned, if there are going to be covenants, perhaps to make dues required, financial dues required, that could be built up in case there is any kind of a wavering from what the covenants would be requiring. Something else that you could look at is to see what, we're talking 14 lots?
Correct.
What if there were to be 10, 12, you know, something like that, so we get things spread out a little more, and you can get something a little bit more aesthetic than just 50% showing garage doors out the front. And again, to perhaps invite the contractor in, because as I said earlier, and now I do remember, the contractor from Fieldstone, the rep did attend one of our committee meetings, and he said, we're not going to come in and build unless we have a minimum number of home sites to build upon. So perhaps there could be another contractor that could be sought who would be willing to come in and build fewer numbers of home sites. These kinds of things, you know, some give and take, so that when it comes back to us, we're all a little bit happier. Thank you, Your Honor.
Councilmember Brox?
I wonder if we'll be able to figure out the answer to the question, what is the difference between the assessed value, the fair market value, and how will that change? I think that's going to be a difficult thing to determine. I don't know if we're ever going to determine that. The things that at least what I'm hearing a little bit is that there needs to be a little more negotiation between the developer and the neighborhood. I mean, from a city standpoint, I think that the boxes have been checked and the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted. But what we have is a concern from the neighbors about this type of housing, the quality, and I feel like the real issue underneath all of this is more communication, more education, more discussion, maybe even a little negotiation. So from a city point of view, I don't have necessarily an opposition to the project other than the neighborhood doesn't like it. But I think if we're going to deny it outright, I guess an alternative to that I would see is more communication and education, like Councilmember Vaughn has suggested, because I feel like a lot of the concerns are between the neighborhood members and the developer themselves. And I don't know specifically how to solve that problem as the city, but we can make some recommendations about how that can move forward, and maybe some additional meetings would be useful. Because what I see from where I sit is that we do need more housing in Hastings of all kinds. I hear that constantly from all of my real estate friends, and they're constantly telling me that we need more houses in Hastings, everything from multifamily dwellings up to $500,000 houses, that if we want people to move here, if we want additional growth, which I think we all do, that we need housing. And that is where the city's role is. I mean, that's where our concern lies. Like, we need Hastings to grow. And in order for it to grow, we do need additional places for people to live. It's on our radar in terms of economic development. It's one of our top priorities, at least it's in the forefront of my mind all the time. So that's our main interest in the situation. And so we want developers to come here and to build, and we need a range of housing. And I don't know that we can say what kind of person or what kind of people are going to buy $400,000 villas. I'm not comfortable saying that it's going to be senior citizens or it's going to be young professionals. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think we should be open to the fact that we need new neighbors, that we need this piece of land will generate more property taxes when it's developed than when it sits there empty. That reduces the overall tax burden for all of you. So I think that we do have an interest in getting this property built, and I'd just like to see it done in a collaborative manner.
Okay. Good discussion. Council members, I'm going to weigh in just a bit. You know, this is a very difficult issue because I understand where the neighborhood is coming from. You know, they have a certain expectation as they have a relationship with the developer. They sign declarations. They've had to adhere to certain conditions. As to the covenants that they're involved in with the developer. The proposal, and I agree with you, Councilmember Brox, here's my main concern as I looked at this particular issue. My concern is that the developer's coming forward here with a single family lots that meet the R1 zone. The homes that are around these villa homes are R1. They're R1 zoned. The proposals that are coming forward from the developer is R1. They meet the obligations of the sizes that they want to build there. The source of the irritation, of course, is the villa homes at $400,000 that the neighborhood doesn't quite agree with in terms of the size of the homes. Yet they meet our requirements. They meet all the requirements that we are, as elected officials up here, are to judge whether or not they're acceptable. If they are not, then it requires us to be more subjective. We have to be subjective. Well, you know, they just don't really fit in there a little bit because they're maybe, you know, don't have enough windows in the front, or they're, you know, they got too much garage door. You know, those are things that are subjective. So we're in a very tight spot. I think that as officials of the city up here, one of our obligations is to, well, we have a couple of them. One of them is to take a look at this as being proposed by the developer and say, did it meet our standards? Has it met our standards? And yes, the answer is yes. It has met our standards. And if we want to change our standards someday, then that's something we might want to look into. But as of today, they've met our standards. Now, I know some folks have said, well, we might have some legal challenges or stuff like that. That's going to be awfully hard. They met the standards. And so that's what we're forced to look on. You know, I at the same time, if I, you know, well, I'm not going to go that way. You know, I would ask that the developer does have a moral obligation, to a certain extent, to understand the neighborhood that they're proposing this, and that they come forward with even a better design than what they've showed us tonight. I think you do have an obligation. When you have a room full of people here that are suggesting that, you know, it's not going to quite fit in our neighborhood, I think we ought to, you know, you may disagree with that, but give them a little more lee room. We do need housing in our city. I agree with you, Councilman. We need affordable housing in our city. We need all types of housing, including executive housing. We want professionals to come to our city as well as anybody else. So I stand here tonight as a person that has, in my view, needs to look out for the legal ramifications of what we have to decide here. And the real legal ramifications, and I'm not an attorney, but as I see it and as I analyze it, the developer has met those requirements. And we need to study that very carefully. So that's where I fall on that, council. Now, if we have a motion tonight that suggests that we not approve this development, then I want that motion to come with specific criteria of the reasons for denial, because we need to do that. We need to have that forward. Okay? So I know the hour's getting long. I think we are becoming fully informed, council, so I'm going to turn it back to council and ask what's your wish. Councilmember Vaughn?
Thank you, Your Honor. Then I make a motion that we table this for 2 weeks because I still need some more facts. I still need to get someone, to give anybody the opportunity, and I can do my research myself, to understand what I heard tonight, where they say the property value is going to drop to their house. We got roughly 2 weeks to figure this out. So that's my motion, is to delay this for 2 weeks.
Okay, before I accept the second on that, because that motion is a non-debatable motion, so I'll hold on a second and let others talk a little bit about that unless somebody seconds it. John, did you want to give a...
Just a clarifying point here.
Are we up against the 60-day?
We are up against the 60-day clock, so I'll look to Mr. Flegel there. There may be an opportunity for us to extend it for a period of time. Is that correct?
That's correct. Under the statute, we can extend for another 60 days. Certainly, we can ask for a request that the developer agree to the extension, and we would ask in this situation, I assume that the developer would agree to that. But absent that, then I think we would have to act under the statute, making an extension for an additional 60 days started at the end of the first 60-day period and based on the need to further investigate the application.
For those who are wondering what we're talking about, there's a state law that says when we get a development from a developer, we have 60 days to make a decision up or down. And so we are bound to stay within the 60-day time period, and councilor is suggesting if the developer would be willing, you know, to extend that, but we are bound to the 60 days. Okay.
Council member, the application was received on July 8th, deemed complete on July 11th, so I would believe 60 days from the application completeness date would be the September 11th.
About 1 week from 1 week from today. Okay? So if we went 2 weeks, we'd have to have that. Councilmember Fulch.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr.
say that the,
Yes.
I stepped out of the room.
Please come to the room, come to the microphone.
Mr. Hinsman, when talk arose about potentially tabling this, he whispered in my ear, "Will you extend?" I don't have the authority to make that decision. So I stepped out of the council chambers, called one of the general partners of the Wallen Partnership and asked, and I did not get authority to extend the 60 days. And quite frankly, what has become clear after this lengthy discussion, particularly amongst council, is that what we have proposed is a subdivision that meets your ordinance criteria. And I believe that 20 years speaks volumes about the moral commitment that the Wallen Partnership has made to this community. And we're not going to abandon that, but if we're entitled to approval, then you ought to give it to us. So that's unfortunately the situation we're in. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay, council, I'll have someone seek a motion. Councilmember Foltz.
So, sir, just to clarify, we have to either make a motion to approve or a motion to deny because we cannot table, just for clarification purposes, that's what
That is
that's
correct.
what you're asking of us?
That is correct. Councilmember Vaughn.
I still think there's some due diligence that we need to check this, and if I understand these dates right, we could call a special city council meeting next Monday, September 10th, after our workshop, to at least give us another look. We get 1 week then to still get our data that we need to make a good decision. And I still think that's a viable option. That's why I make the motion then to delay it till Monday, September 10th. Gives us at least 7 days for somebody to tell me that a property value is going to devalue. That's what I'm really hung up on mostly, because that's all I heard. That was the number one thing I heard tonight, except for what Councilmember Brock said with the communication between the developer and the people that have already built homes.
Councilmember, if that would be the way that we were going to go, my question is what activity would be taking place between now and next Monday? I mean, would you be calling a meeting? Would you be, I mean,
Yep.
I'm just asking.
I would be asking us to call a special city council meeting on next Monday, September 10th, to discuss this item again. That gives us 7 days to find our facts to see, will it devalue a home? That's what I'm looking for on the fact part of it. Because I agree with the mayor, this really fits everything that we sit in our zoning already.
Your Honor, I guess
Counselor?
I'm going to retract what I said before. This is as a subdivision application. The statute 15.99 that I referred to as a 60-day rule doesn't apply. Subdivisions are dealt with under separate subdivision regulations. Reading from the statute here, should apologize for not bringing this up earlier, but subdivision applications shall be preliminary approved or disapproved within 120 days following delivery of the application. So I assume we're within a 120-day period. I think we're okay. I think you could table and continue on, and I apologize for not bringing that up initially.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lund. Was your motion? One second. Councilmember Vaughn, I'm going to recognize you. Did you have a motion to renew your motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would remove my last motion about the special city council meeting and renew my motion that says we table this for 2 weeks to find the facts on this.
Okay, before I accept that second, Councilmember Bolsanic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to encourage Councilmember Vaughn to change his motion to table, so I'm fine with that. I'll second the motion to table.
Okay, the motion's been moved to table, and a second. That is a non-debatable motion, council. We're going to take a roll call on that vote. The clerk will take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. The motion prevails and it's tabled. This issue will come up at the next council meeting, which is scheduled for September 17th, 7 p.m. City Hall.
Aaron?
Okay? Councilmember Brox.
Who will be doing this research? Are we doing this on our own? Are we compiling research? Will John be doing research? Who is doing the research?
Councilmember Vaughn, you know, when I asked you that question, that's what I was seeking, where we're going to be doing the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Councilor Box, I'm going to do my own research. I'm encouraging these residents here to bring some facts to help with the decision. I think staff can look into if we've seen this. We can call, Planning Commissioner Ian Martin gave us some data, but that was, that's good data. We didn't have that till tonight. We could ask the county. I don't think we'll get any answers out of the county for that, but I just think we have to do our due diligence. And to me, that's what I'm hearing tonight, and I just need a little more time to dive into that part of it, because I think all the other rules are saying they fit it. So I'm going to do my own.
Okay. Councilmember Volsanik.
Well, and with that, Your Honor, goes the assumption that the developer and the neighborhood will be exchanging some views and ideas between now and the 17th. I would hope that you would do that to seek clarification, get anybody else involved that hasn't been, and perhaps, take a look at some other design options, maybe another contractor, et cetera, those types of things. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, the issue has been tabled until September 17th, and we'll move on to the, I'll probably will accept a motion on the next resolution to table as well. We want to probably take that up all at the same time.
Correct.
Whenever we get a, Councilmember Lund makes that motion to table, second by Councilmember Brock, so that's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay, we'll go do the variance on the side yard setback at 414 West 5th Street.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't catch the timing quicker.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, we have before us tonight is a variance and original Hastings Design Standard Review for 414 West 5th Street. The property is shown here on the map. The property has a detached garage right here, the main home at this location. What the applicant is proposing to do is to remove this garage and to build a new 1,000 square foot garage at the same setback from the side property line. Per information received at the last Planning Commission meeting, the property line is about 2 feet 8 inches from the existing garage. As shown on the map here, it appears that the garage is on the property line, but from a survey that was done, the property would be 2 feet 8 inches from the property line. Within our zoning code, we do have a 5-foot minimum setback requirement for detached structures, and so we would be looking for a variance of 2 feet 4 inches in order for this to move forward. The Planning Commission did look at this on a couple of different occasions. On August 27th at the last meeting, they did recommend approval of this on a 3-2 vote in support of the variance on the property here. There was a previous meeting on August 13th in which we had information that the garage was in the property line. They tabled that at that time to provide further information coming back. So what we're coming forward with tonight are a couple of things. One, the variance request itself. We have a recommendation for approval by the Planning Commission on the 3-2 vote. The Planning Commission feeling that adherence to the 5-foot setback would place the garage door partially behind the home. With that variance, we have a staff recommendation of denial. Staff feels that there's a lack of a practical difficulty and that the applicant could modify the garage size and meet the setback requirement, or to move the garage another 2 feet 4 inches and have it usable at that point. So with the variance, we will draft a resolution for the variance per the direction of the council tonight. There's not one within your packet. The other item, which is less controversial, is the original Hastings design standards. As you may recall, we have developed these standards to take a look at the pre-war areas of the city that are not within heritage preservation guidelines. And so we're generally looking at design and fit within the neighborhood. We find that the garage, as shown, does fit those requirements. So here is the map of the garage in the plan as we see it today. You see the existing garage kind of here, and the new garage shown here. In proximity to the house, it's about 6 feet behind. Pictures of the site show where the line is here. This garage would be removed, with the garage being placed here if approved by the council. Side property line, and then some other views of the backyard here. So the applicant is here tonight if you have any questions for him, and staff can answer any questions as well. And please be advised as well on the vote for this that on the variance request, you are acting as the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, so that would require a 6 of 7 vote in favor of the action tonight. The OHDS is a simple majority, so I can stand for any questions.
Okay. Thank you, John, for that presentation. Councilmember Lund.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hinsman, aside from the guiding rules, I mean, what are the real reasons why we have these setbacks? Why we have that distance? I mean, if you think about it, it's 5 on each side, so that's 10 feet. I'm imagining there's some emergency vehicle benefits or whatever to getting to behind the house if there's a fire or whatever. I don't know. Explain to me why that is and why this would be a detriment to that.
Sure. Well, I'll start with the rationale for the setback requirements. We've established the setback requirements in order for someone to have the ability to maintain that side of the building. 5 feet we feel would be adequate to be able to maintain that edge of the building. And also, we've established setback requirements in general so that we provide some buffer between what's happening on one property and what's happening on a neighboring property. From a building code standpoint, we have different regulations for properties that are built on the property line and properties that are set back. So in a situation like this, there would be extra fire code requirements that would come into place because of its proximity per the building code on it. As far as the variance itself, what we look at is we have certain criteria that we look at that must be met in order to grant a variance. We're essentially looking at the particular physical surroundings, shape, topography of the land, practical difficulty to the owner in meeting it, something that's differentiating within this property, something different on this property than other properties. We're always looking at, if we were to grant a variance in this situation, might this open it up for others in unintended circumstances? So we want to be very careful in granting variances that were very specific to a property as to these requirements that are met, so that it might not be applicable on a wider basis.
Thank you. Follow-up question, Your Honor. Please. John, what specific unique instances make this a more challenging or different property than others?
I think I'd probably have the applicant address that one. In my view of it, I feel that moving the garage over 2 feet 4 inches might not be something that the applicant would like to do, but I don't think it rises to the level of a hardship. But certainly the applicant feels differently on that, and you may want to ask him that question.
Does the applicant want to speak to that issue? Mr. Wright, welcome to the meeting. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I don't know, there's just a couple different reasons. As far as I would like to keep it within the west wall of this building. I'd like to keep it along the side of the driveway. Everything lines up right now, and with the new garage would line up with that as it shows now. I mean, And there is a power line that does go over the garage that, if we move it over, the very top of the garage would possibly line up with that power line and hit if we do move it over farther. There is a gas line also that's buried that we'd be getting really close to. And it's just the whole fact of moving it over another 2.5 feet, there is quite a bit of the new garage door that would not be accessible behind the house. It'd make it very hard for a car or a truck to go into that spot in the garage without pulling another vehicle out of the garage and doing all that fun stuff, so.
Councilmember, did you have any more questions? Okay. Councilmember Fulch?
Your Honor, can I make a motion?
You may make a motion.
May I make a motion to accept the variance request to allow the 2.5 foot existing?
2 foot 4 inches?
Something like that.
Yeah.
That, yeah. Just to honor the existing boundaries of the garage where it lies and to allow the structure to be enlarged on the same plat. So I understand, wanting to make that increase.
Excuse me, Councilmember Fulch has made a motion that the variance request be accepted.
Yep.
And is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Councilmember Liefeld. That motion is now before the body. Councilmember Fulch. Now you can speak to it if you
Oh,
want
I'm
to speak
sorry.
further.
Thank you.
Yep.
I love the fact that you're
Getting the technicality.
Yeah.
in.
You and your procedures, sir.
Yep.
I was just going to say, I can respect, these are the older sections of town and that they have, I can understand wanting to be able to use your existing backyard, and if it is a further hardship, with the alignment of your driveway and all of that, I mean, what's 2 feet, right? To make your life a little easier. I can only imagine it was expensive to get the boundaries laid out. Yep. And all of this, and so I can respect that, and so thank you for going through due diligence and procedure.
Okay.
Right, thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Lund.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I mean, what's 2 feet? I guess I understand that, but what if the neighbor did the same thing and then all of a sudden the two homes are very close to each other, there's a fire, and it skips over to the other house? That's why we have these things, right? So, I would love to just be like, yeah, absolutely, let's do these things, because it's easier for everybody, but there are some things to consider, and that's why we're looking at this, at this level and not just allowing it without. So that's what I'm thinking is, what do we do here that's different elsewhere? How can this be justifiable where the next person comes in and says, I want to do this too? I see that the existing structure is already doing this to the property line. Is that justification? Is there precedence to just follow current positioning of structure and in rebuilding? It's a little bit unfair that he's trying to improve his property and he's being penalized by that because he's going to be removing something old and adding something new. But I want to understand that we have something to justify this by. So I'm looking at you, John, a lot. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as far as the question that you had, you're looking for justifications to approve it at this point?
I guess technically you could get to that, but I'm looking for precedents, examples. Do we typically look at where something used to be and it's being replaced,
Sure.
and we normally grant that permission?
Yeah. Councilman, we do have a provision within the code that allows for an existing structure to be modified, enlarged, if it doesn't meet the setback, provided it doesn't move any closer. So if he was to keep the garage up and add on to it, he could. From what I understand from talking to Mr. Wright, the structure of the garage is not really in a condition to do that. The garage that he's building is significantly larger than what he has now. I think the garage right now is about 370 square feet. This one is 1,000, so it's almost 3 times larger, so that really wouldn't quite work out well on the property.
Okay. Councilmember Liefeld.
Thank you, Your Honor. So can we go back, John, to the photo where you've put the existing garage? Thank you. So just to clarify then, so the existing west wall is going to stay in place,
That's
Cool.
the request.
save some money there, okay?
Well, no, actually, yeah.
No, going to come
clarify,
down, but
yes.
using that location?
Yes.
Okay. Existing concrete of the garage and driveway?
It's not usable.
Not usable, okay. What year was this garage structure built?
I'm not sure when the garage structure itself was built. The house was built in 1930.
Okay. And any opposition by the west neighbor?
No.
Okay, council? Councilmember Balsanic?
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, so that I do understand this now, I'm looking at the front elevation, and we've got 2 feet of soffit and fascia. So is that soffit and fascia going to be extending into the neighbor's property?
No, it shouldn't.
So the foundation, that, as we're looking at the front of the garage, the left side is actually 2 feet 4 inches in from the property line then?
Because we're looking, Bob, right here, this is where it's being measured
Okay.
from down here? is
Yep.
that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So the footprint is not actually on the lot line.
No.
It does allow for the soffit and fascia.
Yeah,
And I'm assuming, if I'm correct here, that's 2 feet. So the garage is going to be 2 feet off the lot line.
Council member, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong here, we've got the foundation of the building, which would be here. This is not including the overhang of the eave. This portion of the building is 2 feet 8 inches from the property line.
Yes, that is correct.
And then you have the soffit right here, which my eyes are having trouble with me. Out to see
2
if I can-
feet,
Is it 2 or 3 up there? I can't tell.
2 feet of soffit.
2 feet
2
of
foot.
soffit, so yes, the soffit would be off the property line by 8 inches.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so he's not actually building right on it. I'm also looking at your property, let's see, I'm 224 7th, you're 414, so you are on the north side of Fifth Street, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the property to your east looks like they have a garage that's right on the property line?
Yes. And the property to the west on, that's 425th, their garage, if you look at the line, it actually seems to be over. Where my back property stake is about 5 to 6 feet in the middle of their garage. I don't know if on all the property lines or the property sizes are the same.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm supportive of this variance change. I think we should do it. There are many properties around this part of town and over in the First Ward here on the north end that have very unique situations. The house was built in the 1930s. The plats aren't perfect. You got weird lines all over the place. You got structures all. You mentioned maybe somebody's got something in your yard already. When I take a look at these type of issues here, and I think staff did a wonderful job, they brought forward to us what our actual the actual confines are. Originally, this was going to be on the lot line. Now it's it's 2.5 feet or so in, and it's better than it was today. And if he's willing to do that, I think we ought to be willing to go for the variance and allow this to be done. And we already have a motion before us. Councilmember Brox.
I do have a concern about the size of the garage, and when I see a planning commission vote that's split, it does give me pause to think about why they came up with the decision that they did. And I think part of it for me is that the garage is going to be 2 or 3 times as big as the existing garage, and this is an older neighborhood that has homes in it. So I'm not particularly against this variance, but I think we do have to consider the original Hastings design standards, because if we're not adhering to them, then we're not following our own plans that we set as a council in terms of maintaining the character and the structure of the neighborhood. So I understand that this is an exception and this is a variance, and that's why it's being asked for. And but I have to also respect the Planning Commission's work on this, and also the work of John that says that they don't recommend approval. And so I guess I'm still deciding, but I think the size of the garage is concerning to me, and also the fact that that's my major concern, I guess, and the fact that we're not really sticking with the ODHS guidelines.
John, did you indicated that overall you thought that it was fine for the neighborhood?
Yeah, on the issue of the OHDS, our staff recommendation was approval on that end of it. The variance request was for denial.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Balsanic.
Yeah, just, is the siding going to match the existing home then?
Yes, so I'm going to go with a smaller siding. It's going to be a newer siding. It'll be vinyl, but it will match the existing.
Okay. Very good. 7/12 pitch? Yep. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Council, I believe we're becoming fully informed. I'm going to call for a vote. Just to remind everyone that since we are Board of Adjustments and Appeals, we would need 6 out of 7 votes to approve. All those in favor of the variance, the motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion prevails. Okay, thank you.
And then the OHDS, Mayor?
Oh, yes, the next we have the OHDS resolution. Council, what's your wish? Councilmember Fultz makes that motion, second by Councilmember Balsanic. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay, thank you. Next, under administration, we have some special guests here from out of town, a few of them there. We have approved the financial consultant contract, Northland Securities. Council, if we may take that up without objection, I'd like to take that up next. Thank you, Council. Melanie, would you introduce our guests?
Securities. So with that, I will introduce Tammy Amdahl from Northland.
Welcome to the meeting. We're very, very glad to have you here, Tammy.
Mayor, council members, good evening. Thank you for having us.
Get enough information about preliminary plats tonight.
I did. I spent most of my career at the municipal level, so it sounded very familiar. Real quick, I know you've had a long meeting. Tammy Amdahl from Northland Securities. I have with me my colleagues Jessica Green and Rusty Fifield. While Northland Securities may be new to the city of Hastings, be assured that the city of Hastings is not new to me and my colleagues. And when you have more time, we can get into more details. But we're very excited about this opportunity. Northland has been around since 2002. We have about 180 employees. We're headquartered in Minneapolis. About 20 of those employees work full-time on municipal finance. In Dakota County, we presently represent the city of Eagan and the city of Apple Valley. So Dakota County is very familiar with us, and we're ready to get to work. So thank you for this opportunity. Happy to answer any questions, Mayor, that you or the council may have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Council, is there any questions or comments? Okay, I'll seek a motion. Who's got a motion for me? Councilmember Liefeld, way to step forward. Seconded by Councilmember Brox. Is there any, we have a motion before the body. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Thank you very much. And now we have our friends from the Leduc. Is here for the contract amendments. Melanie?
Thank you, Your Honor and Council. I'll speak to the Leduc contract amendments. We've worked with Dakota County Historical Society since 2005 when we took possession of the Leduc Historic Estate. And so briefly, what we do is we own the building, we kind of take care of it, and Dakota County Historical Society programs it. And that's the agreement that's been in place since 2005. Last year, we were asked to review that contract just to make sure we were doing the things we said we wanted to do. And so during that time, the past year or so, had a couple meetings with the Administrative Committee of the Council, chaired by Councilmember Brox and Councilmembers Fulch and Lund. And within your packet, I have a handful of suggested or recommended changes from the committee. I think briefly, they're relatively minor. But what we tried to do working with Mariah and Matt was to just maybe solidify some additional communication that we want, that the committee wanted to highlight. So I'll briefly talk about some of the changes that we're recommending. We've asked them to prepare a marketing and promotional strategy with some goals and measurables to ensure long-term viability of the site through both unique and repeat visitors. That was something that the committee thought was important. It's great that we have people coming once. We'd really like people to make sure they're coming back and visiting the site. We will be getting a standard activity report every quarter from Mariah about what has been going on at the Leduc Historic Estate. They will be working with us when there is an opening on the Dakota County Historical Society Board. They will work with us to make sure we're getting the word out. So if we have any Hastings residents that are interested in serving, they would be able to be more aware of those openings. And then we will be working more closely on their budget and just sharing that information back and forth on what they're proposing for the year. And finally, we'll be doing annual meetings. Generally, we defined it, in the beginning part of the year. Staff would meet with Dakota County Historical Society and kind of do a review. That's something we've been doing in previous years. And then we would have another meeting, probably about this time, and the staff would provide an update on Leduc's activities for the year. So, and that's really what Matt and Mariah were here tonight to do. So with those changes, I don't know if Councilmember Brox or any of the admin committee members want to speak to it, but happy to stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. This issue is before our body. What's your wish, council? Approve, motion? Okay, motion to approve, second by Councilmember Lund. A motion before the body. Discussion. Okay. I just want to compliment the Dakota County Historical Society for the fine work they're doing at the Leduc. And I think it's a wonderful asset that it's under the care of a terrific organization. And Mariah, I hope to get to see you out there soon. I haven't been out there all summer. That's a first. I got to get out there. And so I'll make up for it maybe in October. Okay. Was there additional discussion? Councilmember Brox or Lund? Which one? I'm going to let her go. Okay. Well, aren't you gentlemanly? Councilmember Brox.
We've had a series of meetings this year, and it's been great to get to know Matt and some members of his board better. And I just appreciate their partnership, and I appreciate them indulging our desire to meet with them more frequently, to hear about, to let them hear our concerns and hear about what they're planning to do with the site. So I just want to thank them for their time and for their commitment to the Leduc Historic Estate, and to continue to communicate and keep the lines of communication open. I know we'll do that. So I just want to say that I appreciate their time and effort several times over the course of this.
Councilmember Lund.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, why are we here talking about this? It's there, over the past several months, year or so. I mean, there's been a lot of eyes on this, on the Leduc in specific, and we're we're at a point where I think it's a positive thing that we're looking at this again, and realizing that this is a living, breathing asset that isn't. That can be reanalyzed and rethought, and I think that's kind of where this is this is taking us, right? So, Councilmember Brox mentioned communication. That seems to be the theme of the night here, is let's better communication on things, and I think this will help that too, is really enlightening the council as to what we're getting out of this partnership, and I think it can also help you understand what the citizens of this town are hoping to get out of that property as well, and we'll find good middle ground to get everybody what they want, hopefully. So I think the walkaway message, though, is that it's an asset, it's thriving, and that's why we're talking about it, is because it is important, and you got our attention, right? So I think, what we've done to revise, and through the conversations, I think have come up with some good things, council. And I would like to point out, though, that the effort to include a Hastings resident on your board is, from my standpoint, more than a hope. I really think that is something that would be goodwill, but also a good idea, because it provides some insight, and there's a lot of passion for that property, for history here, and you would probably have a hard decision to find, picking just one person. So I would encourage you to do that. Beyond just, working towards that, I would hope there was an extra effort towards that.
Okay, council, we have a motion before the body. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay, next, council, we have before us the, why everybody's here tonight, the 2019 city property tax levy preliminary budget and setting truth and taxation hearing. Melanie?
Thank you, Your Honor and Council. Make sure the mic is on. Got to switch over to the other presentation. Thank you for your time tonight. Pleased to stand before you and discuss the preliminary levy and budget that you're asked to approve tonight. Want to talk briefly about the process. The council really knows what we've been doing, but I want to talk about with the public. So throughout the year, we meet with the Finance Committee, chaired by Councilmember Vaughn, and including Council Members Balsanic and Brox. But we also have a number of council workshops throughout the year, and our staff is working on the budget. I mean, it seems like it's a year-long process, honestly. But I really want to thank our Finance Committee as well as the full council for the time that you've taken with us over the last several months to get to this point. So tonight you're asked to set the preliminary budget and the levy. And so talk real quickly too about how is the information available to the public. Budgets can be a little confusing. There's a lot of data out there. So just real quickly, we do have a pretty nice page on our webpage with current and previous budget information and budget books. So if any member of the public has a question about it, they can certainly look there as a good resource. We also advertise our meetings when we do the City Hall updates every couple weeks, and it's on our calendar that's on our website. But then last but not least is, that's an old-fashioned telephone for those of you that are haven't ever had a landline. Pick up the phone, give us a call. I certainly, Melanie, our finance manager, and myself, and any of our finance staff would be happy to answer any questions that folks might have. Good news, market value went up 8.21% from year to year, which is a very large increase, the largest we've seen in a number of years. That equates to about $1.6 million, and that brings our total market value to about $21,300,000. That is the highest number since pre-recession, so about 2009. So we finally have recovered that loss. If we look at the market value increases by property type, we can see, this is from the Dakota County Assessor's Office, and they provide us with some median information. So these are going to be parcel specific, but generally, when we're looking at our residential single-family homes, they're seeing an increase about 9%. Townhomes, 6.83%. Condos, that's a big increase. We have some that are as high as 30%. We look at our commercial sites, our smaller retailers are seeing a slight increase. The large retailers, that's like the big box, That's values are declining, and that is, you know, from what Dakota County is telling us, and we're all seeing e-commerce and that continued pressure. And then when we look at our multi-tenant residential, decline and vacant land is about unchanged. Of course, these are all just generalized, and they are going to vary from property to property. When we met with you earlier this year, throughout this year, you provided us with some really nice feedback. You want us to take care of what we have. Infrastructure, that's the stuff in the ground that we might not even know is there, but we really use it on a day-to-day basis if you ever get a glass of water or flush your toilet. Our vehicles and our equipment, including our facilities. We've got a number of buildings throughout the community that we want to take good care of and honor. And then, of course, our staff. We also need to mind our fund balance and the health of funds. We have a number of different funding sources, and we have a number of different funds that we have access to, but we also need to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible. Not surprisingly, our needs outstrip what we have available for our funding. And kind of the fun projects is the council wants to think about what you want to do, big projects going forward. So balancing what we have right now and what you want to be working on. So our 2019 levy is proposed to be $14,233,000, and that brings us to a tax rate just under 60%. This will show you that that has been steadily declining over the last several years. That has been a goal identified by the council, is to continue to bring our tax rate down. This chart, I'm sorry, with this system, it's a little bit tough to read, but I'm going to walk through briefly. The blue bars on the left, those are our local tax capacities. So those are, you're seeing the growth in our tax capacity over the last several years. The middle bar, it's kind of gray, but it looks, I don't know what color it looks up there. That's our levy amount. So you see our levy has slightly increased, but our tax capacity has outstripped that increase. And then the tiny little bar on the right is our local government aid. That is a state program. If we look back at about 10 years ago, we had over $1 million in local government aid. It was cut completely during the recession. That program has been reinstituted by the state, but where we used to use it for operating expenses, now we use it for necessary one-time expenses. So equipment replacements, initiatives, that kind of a thing. And then that yellow line across, that's the tax rate. So just a little bit different way of looking at it. So our current levy supports our budget operations, our department operations. So we've got our general fund, that's a little bit of everything. That's our public safety, public works, general government. And then we have a couple other specialty, well, we have a bunch of other funds, but then this is what our current levy supports, a variety of our department operations. So it's just important to know that all of our departments work hard together, and city levy supports those operations. If we look at our revenues, you'll see that about half of those revenues do come through our property tax, and then about 40% is charges for services. Then let's turn over to our expenses. We've got our revenue side. This is our expense side. You'll see about 60% of our expenses are related to public works and public safety. Also, our biggest expense is personnel related, which is not unusual in the services that we provide. For 2019, we do have a number of projects that we are going to be moving forward with, or we are recommending. We've got pool improvements. We've got some new equipment for the fire department, including an ambulance remount that we're proposing. Website upgrades. We've got some efficiency, energy efficiency with LED lighting. We're going to do some arena building repairs. We are going to continue to focus on economic development incentives, because I know in programs, because I know that that is an important priority of the council. And we are replacing other public safety vehicles. We do also have three infrastructure projects. One is a neighborhood infrastructure project, which we do annually. We also have a mill and overlay program. And then the final one we will be partnering with MnDOT on the Vermillion Street Highway 61 scoping study, building on the study that we worked on this past year. So if you take a look at this chart, it shows you the tax impact of this preliminary levy. And what we've put together are a couple different home values on the far left. And I said that your market value generally is about a 9%. So if we had a median family home in Hastings, just shy of $200,000, your market value increased 9%. Your taxes will go up by about $90, but that's due to your change in value. If you are one of those properties that aren't seeing a value increase, maybe you have a 0%, your tax will go down, but that's due to the change in rate. That's what we can control, the change in rate. So just a couple different properties for you to take a look at. This is another way to look at it. And what these bars show from left to right are paid 2016, 17, 18, and 19. So you can see that for all values of homes, the tax impact has decreased the last several years. We are often asked about our commercial tax impact. That's a little more complicated, a little more challenging for us to calculate. But what we're being told is that those market values are remaining relatively flat. And so based on the preliminary levy, we would expect that the tax impact would be expected to go down. The city also levies a HEDRA, or Economic Development Levy. And that's a separate levy that's permitted by state statute. And they have there's a limitation on what that is. For 2018, that levy will be $364,000 that is used for economic development initiatives. There's also general fund dollars that support those efforts as well. So next steps, we would ask you to adopt the levies or the resolutions for tonight. We are still waiting for some numbers. We typically have to wait for some insurance and some other numbers. We get them here in the next couple weeks, so we're going to continue to refine those numbers. December 3rd, we'll ask you to set the Truth in Taxation hearing. That's an opportunity to do a final budget presentation, offer residents the time to provide feedback. And then we'll ask you to adopt the final levy at the last meeting of the year, which is December 17th. I would like to thank the council and the Finance Committee for your thoughtful guidance. I really appreciate it, as well as our department heads and our finance staff. They make it a really nice process, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Hey, council, any questions? Councilmember Lund.
Thank you, Your Honor. Real quickly, I know it's getting late. Just questions on the couple of things that popped up. Multi-unit dwellings going down in value. Is that because of the economy is strong and people are opting to purchase lower priced homes, or is there a reason for that? And I ask because we're constantly talking about proving this, that, getting other, different types of home situations in town, and if that's one of them that we're targeting and it's dropping in value year after year, then maybe we need to rethink that. And then the other one is just, just curious on the economic development funding at 2%, being a few $100,000. Is that comparable to similar cities, or do we know that?
Thank you, council member. I'll try to take your questions in the order that you pose them. What Dakota County told us with respect to I've got to find the right spot here. Multi-tenant retail, that's what you asked about, right? Multi-tenant residential? Excuse me. It sounds like they're in their analysis, and again, this is parcel specific, those properties have tended to be older. So it's about I think it's about, the condition of those properties perhaps. Mel, do you have anything to add on that? Okay. With respect to the economic development investment that we make, I would have to get back to you on that. I do know that we have invested heavily in the last several years, but I don't have a comparison. Okay, thank you.
Melody, has there been an estimate on the fiscal disparities pool on that money?
I think we are still waiting for that.
We're still waiting for that?
We have last year's numbers plugged in for this year, but we are still waiting for those final numbers.
Could be interesting as we're seeing these decreased values on commercial and manufacturing properties. That's going to have an impact on our fiscal disparities pool.
And we will be reporting back to the council when we do get some of these
Okay.
numbers. Thank you.
Okay, council, we have before us a resolution to approve the preliminary city property tax levy, preliminary budget, and setting a truth and taxation hearing. Is there a motion to approve that? Moved by Councilmember Brock, seconded by Councilmember Vaughn. Is there any additional comments? Councilmember Balsanic.
Thank you. I'm still here.
Okay.
I just want to go back to that tax rate information, and so that the taxpayers understand how fiscally responsible we have been over the last, well, the chart's only showing us going back to 2014, but so that I understand this, we're only taxing at 59.43% of what we could be taxing. Is that the way we look at it?
Councilmember, tax rate is, you take your market value and then you divide your levy amount into that. So that's how you come up with your tax rate.
Okay. So the blue line, local tax capacity, that's what we could be taxing at,
That's
right?
a valuation of our property in town.
That's the valuation of the property in town. The gray line is what we're actually levying then. Okay. I wish Congress would pay attention to that method of fiscal responsibility. I'm very proud of that. And it's not just us as a council that's coming up with this. I think much of the accolades should go to the city staff with regard to wanting to be realistic about what we can or can't do. Now, granted, you know, we have our all-day meetings with our finance committee, and you know, it's more than a dog and pony show. I mean, we've got all the department heads coming in individually, and they've all got their wish list. And, you know, this is what we could do. This is what we want to do. And then, you know, we as a committee sit there and say, well, that's all well and good, but we think we've got to hold in the reins here. And what we did this year, I think more than ever, was set priorities. What priority do we have for parks? What priority do we have for equipment, capital outlay for the fire department, for the police department, for public works? And it's not easy. I mean, what's that? Are we getting a new dump truck in public works this year? We are, aren't we?
No.
No?
Well, we're getting a digger. Thank you.
We're getting a digger.
We're
Yes,
getting, you're getting a
front
big
end
thing.
loader.
Yes,
A front
yeah,
end loader.
yeah.
Okay. And that thing is costing us
Over
over $200,000. Okay, but we need it, folks. You know, we've got to have this kind of stuff. And, you know, we gulp as a committee and we say, okay, this is what we're going to do. But again, you know, if you look at what the tax capacity is and what we're spending on things, we're only getting what we need. We're only getting what we need. And the department heads don't, once they see what we've decided on, they don't go running off into a corner and pout. They just say, realistically, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I think a lot of that positive response from department heads is due to the direction of our city administrator, you know, putting things out there realistically so that everybody knows what is going on. Lord knows I do. I think I do. Maybe I don't. There's still some figures I have some difficulty understanding. But what's nice is that when the dust settles at the end of the day, everybody's willing to go on with a very fresh and positive attitude on the part of the city staff. And I really want to thank the city staff for allowing us as a council to come up with the recommendations that we do and still invite us out for a cup of coffee or ask us how deer hunting is going to be this year and all of the rest of that stuff. It truly is nice. It's one of the great things about being a council member, to see those kinds of things going on. God knows I would not be on the council for as long as I have been if it was anything other than that. And that truly is amazing. It truly is amazing. And I call on our national leaders to go back to the basics and take a look and see how cities operate. There's a book that was discussed, Fareed Zakaria on his program on Sunday morning, and I've got the title written down. But it's a couple who went around the nation, and what they did is they looked at the cities, they looked at the townships, they looked at the counties, they looked at local government, and they wanted to know how it all worked. I've got the book ordered, it's coming, I can hardly wait to read it, and I wish that they had come to talk to me. Of course, I think it would have just been rubber stamping what they came up with, but their amazement was how local, apolitical forms of government operate and operate so efficiently. They just operate so efficiently. And pardon me for getting on the soapbox, and I'm probably going to do it again when we vote on this budget in December once and for all. But it truly is amazing how, in a nonpartisan way, we come up with things that are agreed upon by everybody. When we have the hearing for the budget, I think there's going to be very little discourse regarding it. And I think that shows that it's not a lack of being in tune with what our government is all about, but I think there's a sense of confidence in what we do, not only as a council, but even more so as a city staff, very much so. So I do tip my hat to our city administrator, Melanie, and I certainly do tip my hat to the department heads for helping us run a very efficient city. And with that, I'll get down off my soapbox. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, council member. We do have a motion before the body. Is there any further discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. And then we have one more item of business. Council, we have to approve the 2019 HEDRA HRA special tax levy. Councilmember Vaughn makes that motion, seconded by Councilmember Brox. Discussion to that motion. Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Comments from the audience. Are there any comments this evening from the audience? Anything on anybody's mind? Okay. We're in good shape there. Yeah, there you go. Excellent. Here's your chance. Announcements. Council announcements. We have announced Councilmember Fulch.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to give a quick update. We had a really wonderful, robust conversation several months ago about the food truck policy for downtown. And I did swing back to DBA members and ask them for their input. And they said things were going well, that they're not seeing any disruptions with the food trucks that are down there. And so I just wanted to let folks know that things are good.
Excellent. That's good to hear. Right. Councilmember Vaughn.
Just that I'll be representing the city this Thursday. The Minnesota High Speed Rail hasn't met for some time, but we're getting back together this Thursday at 9:30 for an update.
Excellent. Councilmember Balsanic.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a reminder that the Ward 2 annual block party is taking place this Saturday. It begins at 4 p.m. This is our 16th annual block party, and it's a lot of fun. We encourage families to come. We've got bouncy houses, and rumor has it we're going to have a zip line going across 7th Street. I'm not sure, but that's the rumor. But 4 p.m. until we run out of firewood. So do come one, come all.
Okay, thank you for that announcement. That sounds good. Any other announcements, council members? Okay, I just have a few council members. On Monday, September 10th, next Monday, September 10th at 6 p.m., the City Council will be in a workshop to discuss transit goals. So we're going to have that important discussion next Monday at 6 p.m. At 7 p.m. later that evening, the Planning Commission will be meeting. On Wednesday, September 12th, it's from 6 to 8, another workshop. The City Council will be meeting to work on determine strategic priorities. So we'll have that workshop on the 12th. I'm sure we'll have some clarification on transit when we get to the September 12th meeting. So City Council will meet again in a workshop to determine strategic priorities, 6 to 8, September 12th. On Thursday, September 13th, 7 p.m., Hedgerow will be meeting. Monday, September 17th at 7 p.m. is our next City Council meeting. So come on, have a good time. I was getting there. Okay. The next very important is that it's Lori Brock's birthday on September 17th, right? Okay. On Tuesday, September 18th at 6 p.m., the Parks and Recreation Commission will be meeting. And at 7 p.m. later here at City Hall, again, the Heritage Preservation Commission will be meeting. Community events, ladies and gentlemen, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Initiative. We're excited to partner with the YMCA, the Equity Center, on a two-part session on bridging cultural differences. We're going to using timeless research like the Diversity Wheel and Dimensions of Culture to embrace the community around us. This is a great opportunity for council members, community members to continue to engage on this important initiative. We're asking for participants to sign up on our website so we know how many to prepare for. And I believe, is this for September 29th? Or is this for that other one?
Your Honor and Council, this is open to the community. It's 2 events, September 20th and 27th.
Thank you.
Yep.
September 20th and September 27th. Go to our website to get more information about it, and go to hastingsmn.gov and then go to search for equity. Click that and you'll get additional information. The Civil War weekend, as we heard about that, that's this weekend. It's a great period of our national history. If you get a chance, council members, please be there. I won't be able to make it to give the Gettysburg Address. I don't know, I must have lost my top hat somewhere. But I will find it for next year, okay? So if I get asked back there. So this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, Civil War weekend. And then the Fire Booyah. The Fire Booyah at the Fire Department, new day and location, it's Saturday, September 8th, from 11 to 4 at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church. And so if you can, be out there this Saturday, September 8th, from 11 to 4 for the Booyah. And also, it's another birthday that we can celebrate is Public Works Director Nick Egger has a birthday later this week. If you get a chance to see him, wish him a happy birthday. Council, we have no other items before our body. A motion to adjourn is in order. Okay, moved by Councilmember Balsanic, seconded by Councilmember Fulch. I have news to tell you that is a non-debatable motion. So all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved, and we are adjourned.